on this, because sisi ndio tunajua shida zetu. Hakuna mtu wa UN ama nani who are feeling our pain. Sisi wenyewe ndio tunalala njaa, sisi wenyewe ndio tunateseka, hatuna kazi. So we are going to look at it as Kenyans. In fact, katiba kama ingekuwa inafanywa public participation, ingekuwa ingetranslatiwa in all tribes. Mtu asiseme ati because nani amesoma niko sawa. No.
Ruth, the last time in this country somebody was hanged, a convict was hanged, was in July 1987. 35 years later, would you agree, would you support the hanging of convicts, and particularly those who have been found culpable of corruption?
Francis, I'll go back to the law. We have a covenant with the Kenyans, we have a covenant with the law. The law clearly stipulates we are not allowed to hang. So what business do we have hanging convicts? There is a law that enforces corruption, the people who have committed corruption. So for us, ni kumaanisha wakivuta bangi on the 10th, one, that is breach of law. Sijui kama hanging is part of it, because it is breach of law. They have broken the constitution. So I don't think I would agree that we need to suspend part of the law. We just need to probably sit with experts if we need to revise. But I don't think we need to hang people's life. People deserve to live and be corrected.
Ruth, there are very many injustices. Let me give, for example, Anglo-Leasing Golden Bag.
Yes.
Money was stolen in this country. So in your opinion, the Agano way, how would you do it if it's not hanging?
It is law. They follow law.
Which is?
Si tunafunga.
Wamefungwa. Watu Anglo-Leasing.
Sitaingizwa kwa ofisi. Tuingizeni Agano kwa ofisi muone. We will deal.
That is the question.
We will deal, but you know, if we are saying, why would we want to hang people? You have a sister, you have a brother who probably just needs to be corrected. So why hang?
Na wenye wanakufa because of road accidents, lack of medicine, au si watu wa Kenya, wenye watu wameiba, wanakufa.
That is unplanned. KEMSA unplanned.
Life is life, Ruth. Life is life.
No, KEMSA, the Anglo-Leasing, all this is planned. Mtu akigongwa na gari, that is very unfortunate. And God forbid. Those unfortunate instances, we cannot debate on
because
that.
Of road design.
But we are discussing about, surely.
Road design.
We can.
Sorry.
We can.
Okay.
Kwa hivyo Bi Justina, yes. Kama Roots Party, kwa kuwanyonga mtarejesha vipi mali ambayo wameiba? Mtatoa vipi mali ambayo imetumika vibaya, imeibwa, pesa ambazo mnasema zimefichwa katika mataifa ya ughaibuni? Ukinyonga yule mtuhumiwa, hiyo mali itarudi vipi kwa Wakenya?
Na wacha niseme, atusemi mtu akigongwa na gari anakufa. Nasema people who are given jobs, like to build Ngong Road, for example, those people want to save on money. So the road design does not, they save money, so wana save pesa and wajenge barabara in a cheap way. But niseme hivi, there is a process, Zubeida. We are not just going to pick someone at because media imesema is they are corrupt. We are going first to kuongeza mshahara vizuri, judges, policemen, we have to increase their salaries because they abet corruption, because mtu ameiba pesa kidogo anawapatia. We have to give them increase their salaries. However, there is a judicial process, a fair hearing. Go process ifanywe na tukusikize. Na pia tunapeana caution. It's not like the chicken gate case in the UK. Hapa Kenya taijaisha. So pia watu wa judiciary, they will notice they have to speed up this nini. So kutakuwa na hiyo wapelekwe the process. We have to get the assets back. We have to recall the assets na pia waende wakanyongwe.
Ruth,
sijui kama wote watakubali, because if I know I'm being hanged, so why should I tell you mali iko?
There is a process. There is a judicial process.
Maybe the first two might be caught with the process ya rudisha mali alafu tunanyonga. But someone else will think, kama unataka kuninyonga, finish me, wacha wengine wakulie hiyo pesa. Okay, so I don't think I would justify that. But for us, we are saying the corrupt, we will go even for the big fish. Sisi hatuogopi, tunataka pesa irudishwe, ndio imeweza kuumiza economy ya hii country. We have, our president is planning to give a moratorium where the Kenyans who have stolen our money, wameficha development money, warudishe, wanapatiwa nafasi ya kurudisha. Hapo pale mtu anapitisha ile wakati umewekwa, so from there, the law takes its course.
In 2002 there was such. Why has it not worked?
Maybe in your opinion,
you're not in government, yes. Rules, but you need to show Kenyans that you understand. So, it was there in 2002. What in your opinion is what is the reason why it didn't work out? The idea that you're sharing, in your opinion.
Leadership problems. Leadership problems, Justina. We are different leaders here.
Let's talk, because you seem to agree on the seriousness and the challenges of corruption in our country.
Yes.
Given an opportunity, Justina, in 2 minutes, given an opportunity to be the next deputy president with the government that you will form with the presidential candidate that you're supporting, what are the specific areas that you would target in terms of dealing with corruption practically? Because there's the whole question of administration of justice.
And like I said, the three arms of government they are being threatened. How? The independence rather is being threatened. When, for example, the executive says this, someone runs to court, and then the process is stopped. That is the backdrop of why we are going to suspend the Constitution. But yes, administration of justice is there. But again, has it worked for us? And you know, law was made for man, not the other way around. It is upon us as Kenyans to sit and say, are you happy that 2 billion is lost every day? They say no, because it's accounting to unemployment, inflation, high cost of living. So we are going to we'll be together, the Kenyans. We are going to call for public participation. And the Kenyans, I can tell you, they are very happy about it. Because someone is feeling like, I wake up like in Meru, I wake up at 4 a.m. kuchukua hiyo mira yangu, I pack it. Someone is eating the taxes. Mtu anajifanya ndio mjanja kuliko wengine. So Kenyans are tired. Of course, that aspect is there of administration of justice. Lakini Gashori, Kenyans are suffering. So sisi tutaka participate now, and many of them are supporting this. We need to instill fear in assets of the public. Heshima kwa public assets.
Bi Ruth, haswa endapo mtaingia mamlakani, mnawapea Wakenya muda gani waweze kuona matunda katika vita dhidi ya ufisadi, na wewe binafsi mchango wako utakuwa upi katika kuona hilo linatimia kama makamu wa rais?
For us, we will bring in this in phases. Kuna ile pesa iko nje, in the money that is stashed illegally abroad. For that, we can even say we have started even implementing our 100 days. The fifth, Mwaure Wahiga already wrote a letter to the UN and 15 other countries to start processing our money back. That means tuna uhakika by the time we are getting in, kuna wezekano pesa iko imefika, and if not, tunataka kukata hii mfereji. The report that the incumbent president gave out, 2 billion. We actually think it probably could be 5 billion that we are losing a day, including today and until the 9th of August. So for us, tukiingia pale ndani, tunataka kukata hiyo mfereji ya corruption like instantly, so that we also have working capital to jumpstart the economy.
Na umetaja pale shilingi bilioni 5, haswa kwa sababu umerejelea mara kadhaa pesa ziko nje. Yes. Ni pesa ngapi ambazo mnazizungumzia sasa hivi na mtazirejesha vipi haswa? Mmeweza kupiga hesabu mkajua ni ngapi na ziko wapi?
Ni zaidi ya trilioni 10. Na ndiposa nilisema pale awali, it is possible for us to clear our debt in a day. It is more than 10 trillion that is out there. This is development money. And that is why tumekasirika, tunataka kuleta hiyo pesa irudi Kenya. Tunaweza kosa kuleta na the first 100 days, lakini wa Kenya, we are committed to bring this money back. And in 2017-2018, budget ikisomwa, the Henry Rotich, he's on clip, he's on record, akisema there is money outside. Here hatuna confirmation that pesa ilirudi. It has only been accumulating over a time. Now, by the time we were getting into this candidature, it was over 10 trillion that is outside there.
Bi Ruth, unaona kwamba mikakati ambayo wako nayo kama Agano Party kweli itasaidia katika kurudisha hizo pesa, na unaamini kwamba ni trilioni 10 ambazo ziko nje?
Okay, one thing I'm happy about, sababu Ruth and I agree that corruption in affect wa Kenya sana. Lakini mikakati zao are not practical. They lack the how question. How are you going to do it? Utanishurutishaje pesa yangu iko huko Swiss account to return it? How are you going to force me? Kwa hivyo, the idea is good, but it's just an idea. It lacks practicality.
Moratorium. Tumesema tunapatiana moratorium. You know you have money outside there. We give you time to repent. Sisi Agano tunapatiana time to repent. You won't force kurudisha pesa. And remember, we have external and internal. Kwa hivyo pia hapa ndani, that's what I'm trying to say. We have already commenced the process ya kurudisha ile pesa iko nje. Hapa ndani, the local individuals, we will give them the chance to return, so that if they don't do that, sasa the law takes its course.
Hapo, in another 30 seconds, Ruth. When you say pesa ziko nje, give us specifics. Let me give you a minute actually. When you say pesa ziko huko nje, do you have the specifics? This amount of money is in this country, this amount of money is in another country, and is taken there by so and so. Do you have the specifics?
I may not be having the specifics, but we know the big fish that is having money out there. So, yes.
Justina, pesa ziko huko nje? Do you believe kuna pesa huko nje?
Okay, I believe juu tumeambua Pandora box kwa media, but sisi tunasema yaliyopita si ndwele. Kama mtu tushajua huyo mtu tutampeleka through the judicial process, we are going to recover their assets. Kwa hivyo pesa ziko huko nje, after the judicial process tutarecover. But mimi niseme hivi, there are so many injustices in this country. Anglo leasing, hizo zote, you know, post-election violence zote zimefanyika. Do we hold on to the fact that we shall never forgive? We want to punish people? I think we should take the direction of Rwanda. After everything that happened in the genocide, tukae hivi tuseme wenye wamehangiwa na we have recovered assets ni sawa. Mwenye amekata ahame Kenya because hatutaishi na yeye. But the fact remains, let us adapt a forgiving nature, put in firm policies on how to deal with this, and finally give the opportunity. I said people are corrupt because of a mentality called scarcity mentality. Why are they corrupt? Because in government unasikia MP is earning 1 million, huku nje there is nothing that you can be able to get in that value. So tukipeana opportunity of legalizing bangi, Kenyans will have money.
Maybe niongezee ni kusema, we are not saying we will not forgive anyone. Ukisema utarudisha pesa yetu, we have no reason, we do not have any reason ya kukupeleka ahead na kukuingiza ndani. We just want Kenyans to bring back development money. Sijui venye wao wata jumpstart economy, but that is a long term strategy for us. Pesa irudishwe ndani. Tunapokata mfereji na inapoteza pesa 2 to almost 5 billion a day. Tutapata nafasi ya kuweza kutengeneza our economy without having unnecessarily borrow more money out there. Kwa sababu nikisikia venye anasema, then that means wataongeza loan ile tuko nayo sahi.
Roots Party is fighting to pay off the loan. The loan as it is 9 trillion Kenya shillings or 70 USD. 70 billion USD. Our idea is this, Ruth. Marijuana or industrial hemp takes 4 months to grow. And I gave an example that Kenya government owns around 14 million acres. Tufanye pilot test ya Kulalu Galana. In 4 months tumekelea industrial hemp. In 4 months we are going to be able to recoup 6 billion USD. So we are going to be in the process of paying. Hata tukisema Kulalu Galana ndio tunalipa nayo. In 3 years 6 months tutakuwa tumelipa deni hiyo 9 trillion. Lakini tuko na shamba, we have times 14, you know, 14 million. So we are going to know how we are going to appropriate this land. But niseme hivi, our idea, and I tell Kenyans, I'm here to tell you the truth, the economy is messed up. You need an honest leader who tells you it's not going to be easy. But our idea is that don't even question us at the first 100 days. That one will be lying to you, atutafanya. But in 1 year, ask me as Justina, did you achieve to get the 50,000 times 2 youth who got 2.8 million each? Because I said marijuana takes 4 to 6 months to grow.
Right.
So in 1 year, tutaweza kufanya hivyo.
Ruth, let me now introduce a discussion on the cost of living.
Yes.
And I want to give you 2 minutes to tell us, in your understanding, what is the driver of this rising cost of living? And if elected president, let's say in the first 100 days, what would be the Agano proposals to reduce the cost of living?
I agree to what you're saying, and I think the 100 days for us, we will repeat that our agenda is corruption. Cost of living has been affected by corruption widely. And if we deal with corruption, I think Kenyans will smile back at us. And the first 100 days, one that was implemented yesterday, na ninajua unga haijateremka, 2 weeks ago, on our manifesto we launched that, we will introduce the subsidy of maize. It was introduced yesterday. Na Wakenya wameambiwa to wait for 2, 3 to 4 weeks for it to be felt. Jana nimepitia kwa supermarket, bado unga ni 230. So for us, we still have to bring the subsidy for Kenyans to be able to eat, because a hungry nation is an angry nation. For us, we are also planning to implement the pay cutoff of 50%. I know you'll want to ask where the deficit is going to come in. Our repayment period for the loan is 1.3 trillion. And the financial year, the last financial year, KRA reported that the payment that was done through the payee was 461 billion. So if we cut off the payee by 50%, that is 230 billion deficit. If we come and cap the repayment period, the repayment of the 1.3 trillion, kumbuka tutakuwa na ile extra 300, ile tutakuja kusongesha pale kwa payee, so that we are able to run our activities as usual and even have a small surplus of 7 billion to run with. That being amongst them.
Do you agree with her and the proposals to reduce the cost of living?
Okay, first, I can't agree with her, definitely, but cost of living is occasioned by inflation, number one. Too few goods, but there's too much money in circulation. Number two, taxes. When manufacturers have the tax burden, they push it to the consumer, and the consumer is not having any salary increase. So that is the reason we are having this. So let me say this. We are not going to do the 100 days, that's a lie. But you ask us after 1 year when you get into office. That one, we are going to widen the tax base. Why? I said marijuana is used in 9 sectors, across 9 sectors. Example, paper. We are going to give life to pan paper. Pan paper had been given life, but again, the logging law came in, so they don't have raw materials. We'll have marijuana that will be used for that. So our idea is to drive local economies whereby a Kenyan, instead of importing something from China, like the people of Nyamakema, their stuff was burnt for lack of quality, let them organize themselves, have local industries, if it's textile, plastic, paper, printing paper by the way is very expensive. So when we have local economies, we are going to widen the tax base so that a corporate tax shouldn't be 30%. We can lower it because we have more in the tax net. Another thing is to ensure that we give conducive environment for business. As it is, businesses are not comfortable. They are saying that lack of the dollar in the country is impeding their purchasing power in the global supply chain. So when we give a conducive environment, the economies are going to be there, Kenyans are going to be employed, and then we are going to have money, then the other youth who want to be employed in these industries can go into the other thing of investment that I said. We are going to empower the youth financially.
Kidogo hapo, hata kabla usonge sana, kwa sababu umesema kwamba hamtaahidi wa Kenya kwamba katika muda wa siku 100 mtafanya hivi na kadhalika. Awali ulituambia bangi inachukua muda wa miezi 4 kukua, na umetuambia kwamba hamtaahidi kwamba mtatimiza baada ya miezi ama siku 100. Kwa hivyo yule Mkenya anakutazama sasa hivi hawezi kumudu gharama ya kununua pakiti moja ya unga. Kwa hivyo unamwambia nini?
Huyo Mkenya nitamwambia that the truth is tumeteseka miaka 30. 1 year tunaweza vumilia, but we are putting in, Kenyans need an honest leader. As it is now, hii maneno ya kusarakasi na siasa is what is getting us here. We are being honest. We are saying, of course, they have put in the unga imeshukishwa bei. But sisi tukiangalia the truth, marijuana also gives flour. We can look at alternatives to the challenges. If maize flour is costly, then marijuana flour can cook ugali, can cook chapati. And then cooking oil, the seed produces cooking oil also. So we tunaangalia kama hii ni expensive, we are going to use this. So the alternatives. So mimi naambia Mkenya, hatutawadanganya. Tumedanganywa miaka nenda miaka rudi. We are telling you the truth. Question us after 1 year.
Biruth, unaona wa Kenya wavumilie, watumie unga ya marijuana,
watalala njaa 365 days from the 9th.
But they know the truth.
But they will die. No, let's be frank. Of course, we do not need a list of 10 items. I would almost agree, but we do not need a list of 10 items kufurahisha wa Kenya that we can accomplish all this in 100 days. Tuweke vitu realistic. Mkenya aweza kupata chakula. Yule mama anaangalia watoto peke yake aweze kupata pesa ya kulipa rent, kulipa school fees. But telling Kenyans to wait for 1 year, I think it's a long time.
The truth is,
it's such a long time.
Truth. And someone who's been in government, I know they're laughing at us, but the truth is, government policy is about trade-off. What is working for our country? What is working for our people? So if we come here and say, tutaangusha bei ya mahindi, Farmers walitoka Ushago, they came to Nairobi. There is rural to urban migration, they are border riders. Because farming doesn't have money. It is about us giving the conducive environment for agriculture to thrive. Watu warudi Ushago, they grow the maize, they grow the marijuana, they do the miraa. And actually we are giving Kenyans an alternative. If you're a miraa farmer, continue doing, no problem. But we need Kenyans to know, it's not about the government doing things. We won't lie to you. And that is why leaders or politicians lie to us. It's about telling Kenyans the truth. Here is a trade-off between a very bad situation and a worse situation.
I think I think agriculture has money. Sijui kama hapo tutakubaliana, lakini farmers agriculture has money. I will give an example. My grandmother amekuwa ametegemea majani chai. They have brought up she brought up 8 children. Lakini sahi mkulima wa sahi analia. So if we restore back our economy, that means hata ule mtu hajasoma ataweza kuongeza pesa kwa mfuko, na tuweze pia kukata hii importation tunaleta ya michele, na kuna project kuna schemes kama za Moya tunaweza patia wakulima nafasi to boost themselves back, na Wakenya waweze kupata chakula ya kukula. Just like even the maize, people are having maize in the granary. Kwa nini tunaleta mahindi kutoka nje? Tupatie nafasi wa Kenya wajijenge. I believe farming has money.
Yes.
Pia ule akona ng'ombe ananunuliwa maziwa 30 shillings lakini inauzwa 60. Wacha tujaribu kubalance out.
Sikusema agriculture doesn't have money.
You said
but wait, as it is, the global prices, declining global prices. Sahi watu wa Kisii wanasema 1 kg of coffee or tea wananunuliwa 30 shillings farm gate prices. Sugar cane inatoka 4,112 per ton. Sahi mahindi 3,000. Na sahi ekelea fertilizer. So the input cost of agriculture as it is so costly that you as a farmer, you're not getting money. Na niongea about maziwa, hata dairy farmer. By the way, hemp produces animal feed. So our tukitengeneza animal feed, which is very costly as it is, they impede maziwa production. Kutakuwa na so much milk that Roots Party is telling Kenyans, and we are promising Kenyans, kutakuwa na maziwa ya Roots na mayai ya Roots, because animal feed will be affordable. Kenyans can take milk as they wish. So our purpose is to reduce import costs in agriculture, but agriculture has money.
No, that's when I quoted you, Justina, and I think the pricing right now of the food products is because of a leadership issue. It's nothing that the Kenyans cannot produce. Tuko na mchanga, tuko na maadili. We only need to give Kenyans ile nafasi waweze kulisha Wakenya wenzao. Just that. Let's stop saying ati mahindi iko na intoxins, whereas the strategy is kuleta mahindi binafsi, unaleta hapa kwa nchi, unajitengeneza wewe mwenyewe, lakini unafinya yule mkulima ako pale Murang'a, ako pale Kisumu, hawezi pata return on investment. Kwa hivyo let us try to promote what we have locally, because this is a blessed nation.
Justina, in 60 seconds, listening to you, then it sounds like it begins and ends with marijuana farming.
That is part of our manifesto, and agriculture is the core principle in our manifesto. Let me say this snake farming. As it is, 3 Kenyans die out of snake bites as it is. And we have a law called Wildlife Conservation Act 2013. And this gives us the option of having this snake farming as an income generating activity. So even if you go to KWS right now, the law is there. Ours was just to amplify that voice and give options. Like I was saying, 3 people are dying every day because of snake bites. And why? The antivenom we import in this country is from South Africa and India mainly. But there are over 3,000 species of snakes in the world. So maybe the snake that will bite you didn't have that antivenom. And if it's antivenom, one vial goes for 13,500. And you need between 5 to 10 vials ndio upone hiyo kumwa na nyoka. So ideally utakuwa na 135,000 ya kupona hiyo snake bite. What is our agenda? Our agenda is to look at what we have. We have snakes around. 1, we'll have the venom industry. This is where unasikianga mtu kushagua amesoma biochemistry, but you don't know where they're going to work. We are going to bring them into this pharmaceutical industry where they are getting the antivenom so that we can compete in the international market.
Right.
And then protect the 3 Kenyan lives who die because of snake bites.
Ruth, in 1 minute, story ya nyoka.
Story ya nyoka ninasema for our government, Agano Party, we cannot deal with snakes surely. Tutafunga kwa compound ama ni kuku tutaweka
There is a
surely.
law.
Ndio tupate mayai. Then again, how much do we have to wait for this venom itoshe ndio Wakenya waweze kupata medication, whereas we are going to start, probably, if at all they get the chance to lead from 10th, tutaanza kurea from 10th, ama tuko na za kutosha Kenya. What business do we have putting in snakes here?
We have amplified what is there. There is a law, Wildlife Conservation Act 2013. Today is 2022, so it's been there for a while. And it gives this leeway for wildlife snake farming as an income generating activity. Let me tell you, our idea is making Kenya an export hub, putting money in the pockets of Kenyans. Ndio tunapata ile foreign exchange tulikuwa tunaambiwa tukiwa shule, ati Kenya is earning foreign exchange from wherever. So yetu ni ya kwamba, let's get other alternatives, income generating activities for Kenyans and to sustain our export manifesto.
So how much venom do we need probably?
Like I said, do the math. One vial goes for
Mimi sifanye math ya
13,000. You can check, you can Google. One
No,
vial
that
goes
one I
for
will not do.
13,500. If we do it locally, we are going to lower the cost. And remember, even your government, if you win, is going to incur the cost of importing antivenom. So why not have our own here so that we can lower the cost and save the lives of Kenyans as we create an industry. An industry for this venom thing. There's someone at home amesoma biochem. Me unaonanga ama pharmacist sijui nani. They only sell in chemists. There is no employment. Our target ni kuemploy everyone. Mwenye amesoma asiregret. Mwenye hajasoma kuko na hizi zingine economies anaweza invest in. So yetu ni kuweka pesa mkononi.
Na Bi Justina, ni baki kwako kabla kurudi kwake, na una muda wa dakika 2 kuweza kujibu hili. Kwa yule mtazamaji au mkulima ambaye anakutazama sasa hivi, imekuwa vigumu kwake kulima mahindi yake au kahawa yake, majani chai na kusafirisha nje. Itakuwa vipi kwake ukianza kumwambia sasa tufuge nyoka tusafirishe sumu? Kama hawezi kusafirisha mahindi, ataweza vipi kuuza katika soko la kimataifa sumu ya nyoka, fisi?
Haya, niseme hivi. Bangi, nyoka already kuna frameworks na ziliwekwa 2013, tutafuata hizo. But bangi, ile challenge mkulima sasa yako nayo, tukaangalia kama ni farmer, kuna watu wanaitwa KTDA au coffee board au wote. They come here, they take your produce, they go sell it and then come back to pay you. Many times wanakuja wanakuambia, you even you owe us. Unaona? And that is why farmers wanakasirika, wanasema hii ni ya nini? Our idea of marijuana, because this is fresh, snakes is in the law. Idea of marijuana is we are going to cut down these brokers, these KTDAs atuataki. Hii tunasema buyer representative anakuja kwa gate yako. If you've sold 50 kgs, we are going to ensure ananunua according to the price, market price. You're given your money cash as opposed to venye KTDA inapatianga farmers annually. This farmer needs to educate their children, anataka kusustain maisha yake. That is why farming is no longer lucrative. So we are going to cut off the brokers au watu wote wako katikati, na buyer representative kama ananunua, anakuja kwa farm gate, anachukua produce, anapatia cash, unajipanga na pesa yako.
Na hao nyoka wataiko wapi? Ni kwamba mtajenga vibanda. Unajua sasa hivi ukienda kule mashambani, kila mtu ana mahali ambapo anaweka kondoo, ng'ombe. Kwa hivyo sasa utajenga pia panyoka, fisi na vitu vingine.
Na hii agenda yetu inaleta msisimuko. But I'm happy because Kenyans are opening up their mindset. Maneno ya nyoka. There is the Wildlife Conservation Act 2013 that stipulates the process and the procedures and the systems. KWS itakuja kwako. You give and you show interest, yeah? Expression of interest. Before they give you a license, wanakuja kwako na wana inspect. So hiyo sitaongelea sana because already the law was passed by parliament. But this is the idea. Unaenda express interest, unaambiwa before upewe license, they have to inspect your premises. Can you afford? So we are going to use KWS, and Kenya is not devoid of experts. Wako watatusaidia on how best we can cash in on this. Na nimesema it is being done because we import venom from South Africa and India. They are doing it. Why not us?
Ruth, utafuga nyoka?
I think for Agano Party, our governance, we leave the snakes to the zoo. Tunakuja kuziona, tunaziangalia, tunasoma. That's good for us.
Pesa nayo.
Justina,
Yes.
I'm looking at this from a practical point of view.
Yes.
If you want to introduce, let's say, tea farming or maize farming, you give farmers seeds, fertilizer, and everything else. So what will you give to somebody who wants to engage in snake rearing?
What will we give?
Yeah.
Like I said, Gashori, the law was passed in 2013. KWS, we are not doing it at Yas Justina or Professor Wajakoya. No, there are regulations in place. Hao ndio wataenda na KWS will advise them as it is, mali watatoa hiyo nyoka. Because there's already a research process in place. Wako hapa Ngong Road. Ni a government, it's government owned, nina support KWS in this process. So what we are saying, hatutapeana nyoka. Justina Wamae or Wajakoya won't go and give snakes. No, we will work with the experts. And Kenya haikosi our experts. We will work with KWS. But the fact is, we have amplified the voice that this is an alternative income generating activity.
Una la kuongeza kabla tu?
Naona KWS wako na kazi mingi ahead of their government, ya fisi na ya nyoka. For us, we are safe again. We leave them in the zoo.
They were expecting, the law is there, the Wildlife Conservation Act 2013.
Those were just my remarks.
Yeah.
Naam, tuingie katika mada yetu ya mwisho katika mjadala huu wa leo ambayo inahusu kinyang'anyiro hiki ambapo kipo, namna siasa zinavyoendeshwa. Kwa mtazamo wako Bi Ruth, katika muda wa dakika 2, unapoangalia jinsi kampeni zinavyoendeshwa, jinsi uongozi unavyoendeshwa humo nchini Kenya, kama mgeni katika ulingo wa siasa na katika masuala hayo yote, ni kipi ambacho unaona kinastahili kubadilishwa katika namna tunavyojiendesha?
I would say that I have been a leader. One, I will not call myself a new politician in this field. I have been a leader from the time I was a young girl. And I almost actually got into the Nairobi gubernatorial in January 2021, a governor with David Mwaure. Lakini Kenyans and Nairobians know what happened. Iyo maneno ilisimamishwa. So what I would bring in different is to ensure that we get rid of this PR. Tumedanganya wa Kenya for too long. People have been asking hauna experience, but if the cost of experience is what has happened over the years, I'd rather come in as the new option. Mtu le amebadilika, mtu ako trustworthy, mtu ako na nafasi ya kubadilisha maisha ya Wakenya, kushughulikia wanawake, kupa wanawake sauti, even the youth. Wanarika pale nje wametengeneza jobless corners, but tunasema tunahitaji experience. No, I refuse what the stereotypes are talking about. Ninasema sisi tunakuja kuleta mabadiliko. Amkeni wa Kenya, tunakuja kuleta mabadiliko na uongozi mpya katika hii nchi.
Ni baadhi ya mabadiliko kama yapi ambao unapendekeza Ruth? Kwa sababu unasema kuleta mabadiliko yapi? What should change?
Corruption, Francis, corruption is big on us. You know, we cannot be able to change agriculture without curbing corruption. We cannot deal with sports. Look at what happened to Ferdinand. The corruption imefanya maneno ifanyike. He's a champion. He's going to represent a country. Lakini kuna wale wanatangulia kabla yeye. The person who is supposed to be bringing glory back to us is the person who is last. Is given last priority. Kwa hivyo haya mabadiliko sisi ndiposa tunaegemea upande wa corruption, because it is a cancer in this country, and we need to get rid of it.
Let me give you some 60 more seconds. Haya mabadiliko unayozungumza, how will it affect health? How will it affect the young people who have no jobs? How will it affect infrastructure development na mambo kama hayo?
Tukipambana na corruption, tutakuwa na operational capital. Remember, we'll be able to create jobs for the youth. Kuna wale wamefanya degree, 2,000 of them probably after every year wana graduate, hawana makazi. Wakienda kutafuta kazi, they're being asked for 3 years experience. It is not bought over a shelf. Tunataka kupatia the graduates nafasi waweze tunapatia graduates nafasi kuweza kuingia kwa makazi with a minimal experience with a minimal experience, which means tunaweka mikakati ya kuweza kuwapatia nafasi kuingia immediately after graduation. There's a graduation program. Na watu kama wa informal sector tunamsha the industries that have been dead. During COVID, we got to learn that we can make masks we can make locally masks. Kwa nini bado basi tunazileta? To employ wanarika walipo hapa ndani waweze kutengeneza mask. You can imagine we're even importing toothpicks. Situpatie wanarika in the informal sector nafasi waweze kujijenga pia.
Justina, what should change about our way and mode of doing politics?
Let me say this about health. Ukiangalia as it is, if you have for example, you're told to come for an MRI, to get an MRI scan or dialysis, ukiwa Turukana, you have to come to Nairobi for NHIF to give you authorization for that. Assuming you're very, very sick, so you have to come with someone, you travel from Turkana to Nairobi. Up until 2018, it was working. I don't know why it stopped. You come here to Nairobi, maybe upate watu ni wengi kwa NHIF office, so uende bado ulale, there's cost of even spend in Nairobi, and then you go back. What I'm thinking, the change we need in Roots Party, what we are pushing as Roots Party. Number one, NHIF zote in all localities and branches, can they authorize this thing? So that kama ni dialysis, kama ni MRI, we were told that machines were bought. Why should they come to Nairobi all the way from Turkana or Mandera for authorization in Nairobi? So that is the change we want. Number two, doctors are professionals. They should also have their own health service commission. They have been fighting for this. So as Roots Party, we are going to push for that. Wacha wajipange kama Judicial Service Commission, because health is very, very paramount in this country. Another thing which borders on devolution. Our idea as Roots Party is that we've seen that 15% is not possible because national government is not able to give county governments, and county governments are crying. When we say we are going to suspend the constitution, that comes into chapter 11 of devolution. What we want is for the counties, they are already organized in caucuses. Wajipange, they get their own revenue, wagawane according to their regions. They are only going to give national government ya roots 10%. Iyo, a doctor wa county atalipwa, suppliers who've been auctioned because they have not been paid watalipwa. Unaona, and service delivery ya county will be manageable. So that is the change we are pushing as Roots Party.
Na Bi Ruth, katika kauli yako ya kumaliza una muda wa dakika 2, ni kipi ambacho mtakifanya tofauti na utawala ambao upo sasa katika kauli yako ya kufunga?
Wakenya tunaleta transparency. Wakenya tunaleta uongozi mpya. Tunakuwa, we are the new broom. We are the people who are coming to clean up the corruption. We are people who are coming to stabilize the economy. We are concerned about our youth. We are concerned about the women plight, just as like the disabled, the people with disability. So give us the chance to take care of you. You are our bosses. It's paramount to know that you are our bosses. You are not the subject. So give us the vote and we shall bring in the change that we have been talking about.
Kauli yako ya kufunga, Bi Justina.
And I called for mindset change when tulikuwa tunaanza hii debate. Kenyans, let us respect the media owners. They have organized this debate. And the purpose of this debate is to give you an opportunity to ask your leaders questions. And here we are. So don't see it like it's something that you're time wasting, ama mulisha amua. No. If you need a different Kenya, a transformed Kenya, this is the opportunity. Let me say this as Roots Party. We might come off as jokers, as not serious people, but one thing we are doing is to push your mind and to ask yourself, by the way, my tribe doesn't help me, but the challenges I'm facing as an individual is what I want my government to help me with. So we are coming in with fresh ideas. We are coming in with the idea that Kenya can do better. Kenya is beautiful. We have athletes who we are always trending that they are doing well. We have musicians who are doing well. But when it comes to leadership, why do we have low self-esteem? Why do we choose people? Why are we scared to go a different direction? So my call to Kenyans is that Roots is different. We are giving you a solution. We are explaining to you where we are going to get the money to run government projects, and we are ready to serve you. So be different. Don't feel like anyone owns you. Don't feel like you're doing someone a favor. And for the 44 million undecided, I hope I've convinced you. And the ones who are decided, I hope I've converted you to vote for Roots Party, because this is the government and the party for the future.
Thank you very much.
Asanteni sana. Mnaweza kupokezana mkono. Thank you. Na wanaposema wahenga, kilicho na mwanzo lazima kiwe na mwisho. Hii sasa ndio tamati ya mjadala wetu kati ya wagombea wenza wa kiti cha urais.
Indeed, our appreciation to candidates Justina Wamae and Ruth Musheru, and to you, the audience here and out there watching on television here in Kenya and around the world. Thank you all. I'm Francis Gashuri of Citizen TV and Inoro TV.
Nami naitwa Zubeida Kananu Kome kutoka KTN News. Usiku mwema.
Thank you for staying with the Deputy Presidential Debate. Debate 1 has just ended just moments after Justina Wamai of the Roots Party and Ruth Mutua of the Agano Party faced off there in Debate 1. Debate 2 is kicking off in just a bit, but my panelists are still here with me. In fact, some of the leaders are already here, already within the vicinity. We're waiting for Martha Karua, Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya Alliance, and Rigathi Gachagua, who is from Kenya Kwanza, who's just arriving for the Debate 2, which will kick off in the next 1 hour. And I'll be crossing over to Ken Mijungu in just a bit, and Michelle Ngele was standing by for that conversation shortly. And my panelists are still with me. Professor Alfred Omenya, urban planning expert, is changing places with Professor Gituro. Nerima Wako, executive director, Siasa Place, is still here. Dr. Nancy Baraza, former deputy chief justice, is still with us here. Saska Labarakwe, public policy expert, is also with us. And Wanjiru Gikonyo, executive director, TISA, which is the Institute of Social Accountability. Just moments before this debate kicks in, the second debate, Wanjiru, who impressed you in the first debate and why?
Well, I have to give my kudos to Justina. First of all, I think both were impressive, and it's a landmark that we have two women being able to hold this debate.
Yeah.
So that means out of all the candidates, we've got a total of 3 women as deputy. That is the trend we need when we are talking about gender inclusion. In terms of the debate, I'd have to give it to Justina.
Yeah.
I felt she argued her points very convincingly. I think she gave a lot of good background information. I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
But they both did well. Both
Okay.
did well.
Asaska, who impressed you?
To be honest with you, I give it to the Roots Party for making cannabis a national conversation in this debate this evening. Kudos. And I also picked up that she covered their manifesto very well, cutting across all the 10 points. And the other thing I noted is that the Roots Party manifesto is an outward-looking manifesto.
Yeah.
Because you'll find that she really focused on exporting hyena parts and dog and snake meat and anti-venom and all this. And they are looking at China particularly. That I find it quite interesting because China is one of the highest consumers of these exports. And because of this, she's really hammered it down on legalization of marijuana.
Yeah.
And she made it clear to Kenyans that, hey, we're not just going to work in an empty space,
No.
We'll have laws and regulations guiding the farming of marijuana.
Yeah.
So I found it very interesting
Okay.
and captivating.
Dr. Baraza, were your expectations met? Are you convinced now? You're waiting to be convinced whether this is an alternative option.
I think before I answer that, Trevor, I want to commend the two candidates.
Yeah.
I think, as Wanjiru has said, I think our democracy has grown. It's growing, that we are having women stand before us and debate and offer themselves. I think our democracy is a demonstration that our democracy is maturing.
Yeah.
But to come to the issues, I think Justina did very well. She was on top of her manifesto. They are thinking outside the box. She gave us what is it?
The issues around their manifestos and why it is
The
important.
issues and how they intend to realize
Yeah.
those issues, the law, the regulations. I think she did very well.
Yeah.
Except we got focused too much on marijuana.
Yeah.
Probably other issues were not as well articulated. As for Agano, Ruth performed well too, but she ended up reacting to Justina and forgot that they have their own manifesto. She didn't articulate their own manifesto very well.
All right.
Otherwise, I think it's a clap for our democracy.
All right, Dr. Baraza. And you can see right now this debate 2 is just about to kick off. It's starting off in the next 45 minutes or so. And one of the candidates there, Honorable Rigathi Gachagua from the Kenya Kwanza and UDA Brigade, is already here. ready to face off with Honorable Martha Karua. He's just come in first, and of course they're going to hold him for a bit for the second part of that debate, which is kicking off at exactly 8 p.m. all the way to 9:30. That will be moderated by James Smart and Sophia Wanuna. James Smart, who has been told there's no such thing as beard gang. Ni pesa hakuna. We'll go over to James Smart and find out what's really going on. But right now, one of the candidates who's arriving for the second debate, that is Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, is heading to speak to Ken Mijungu and Michelle Ngere to find out how he's feeling this evening.
Trevor, thank you so much. And of course, the Kenya Kwanza Alliance candidate, running mate Rigathi Gachagua, is here, all decked up, looking really nice. Thank you so much for you. Quite early, you keep time. It's about 5 minutes past 7. How have you prepared for this debate?
Well, to start with, I'm a guy who keeps time. You know, I was a guy in uniform. I believe in military precision. You told me here to be here at 7, I'm here at 7.
Okay.
I'm ready for the debate. I'm looking forward. I hope this debate is about the people of Kenya. I hope we are not degenerate into triviality and innuendos and rumors and unnecessary issues. I trust that the moderators will give us a chance to present to the people of Kenya our plan to turn around the economy, to change their lives, to put food on the table, to make sure that every Kenyan can pay their bills, they can take their children to school, to make sure that every Kenyan who goes to hospital cannot be detained there because of lack of money, and to restore the dignity of the Kenyan people.
Okay.
You know, Kenyans are in a state of helplessness. Kenyans feel very dejected. They lack hope. We need to give them a plan.
Okay.
And we have that plan. And given an opportunity tonight, we'll talk to the people of Kenya and tell them the plan that we have.
Very, very interesting. But as I let you go, because you need to take a little rest before you take to the podium, you are prepared for this debate. You have been going around campaigning for Kenyans. But how do you feel being here tonight? This is the day, you know, because obviously you're prepared for it.
I feel good because I'll have an opportunity to talk to many Kenyans who don't come to public rallies. There are many Kenyans who, because they are working, they are busy in business, some outside the country, they don't get time to attend public rallies where we have been pushing our agenda and explaining to the people of Kenya why they should give Dr. William Ruto and I a chance to change their lives, to restore their dignity, to give them hope, to inspire them.
Right.
And those are the Kenyans I want to talk tonight. And I trust and pray that the moderators will not be trivial. They'll give me an opportunity to talk to the people of Kenya about our plan and convince them that we have the best plan for them, and that is why they should come out on the 9th of August and vote for Dr. Ruto and I.
All right, Rigathi Gachagua, running mate for the Kenya Kwanza, all the best as he walks in to now take his position. And Trevor, very interesting, he's a man who keeps time, and he says he's ready for the debate, and I know we are also ready. Over to you, Trevor.
Thanks, Ken. We're absolutely ready for debate 2. This is just moments after debate 1 has just finished. Justina Wamai of the Roots Party and Ruth Mutua were facing off. Now debate 2 is kicking off in the next 45 minutes or so. That's at 8 p.m. They're going all the way to 9:30, and the first candidate has already arrived. That's Honorable Rigathi Gachagua. Nerima, coming to you now, just post the first debate. Who impressed you and why?
Well, I would have to say that as well. I agree. I believe it was Justina Wamai. You could clearly see in the way she articulated herself that politics is something that she is well versed and used to. She was able to use very personal stories. She identified with the people, the audience. A lot of times with her responses, you could hear the audience chiming in and laughing. But also the fact that she had tried to stand in Mavoko and also applied for a permanent secretary position. It shows you that even in her articulation of responses, she could see how things work within the counties.
Okay.
And
Nerima, I'm going to ask you to hold that thought. Now the interruption comes to you for the first time. At least that's one vote on your side. Let's go over to Busara Naman, who's standing by with Justina Wamai of the Roots Party. Post the first debate and let's find out how she's feeling. Busara?
Naam, mtazamaji, bila shaka duru ya kwanza ama awamu ya kwanza mdahalo imetamatika na tayari tunajitayarisha kwa awamu ya pili. Lakini kabla hatujajitosa katika awamu ya pili, ni lazima tuweze kujua jinsi mambo yalivyokwenda katika awamu ya kwanza. Na hapa nipo na mgombea mwenza ambaye ni Justina Wamae, na pengine tu ningependa utueleze, je, unahisi vipi baada huo mdahalo? Na je, unahisi kwamba umeweza kuwashawishi wa Kenya?
Asante sana Busara kwa hilo swali. Nikiingia hapa nilisema kazi yangu itakuwa ku-destigmatize Roots Party Manifesto na believe nimefanya hivyo. But wacha niseme hivi, Kenya imebadilika, Wakenya wanataka leaders who understand them. Na ndio maana ilibidi nifanye a lot of research na ni present well ndio Wakenya watuelewe. Another thing, Mkenya wa leo si ule wa kitambo. Nilipokuwa mdogo nilikuwa naona wanasema women in politics are not married. So the men in this country wako progressive, watasupport ideas, hata women empowerment ideas, and I need to thank personally my husband, my spouse, Bwana Alex, tuko naye huku kwa kunipatia hii opportunity ya ku choose and do what I love, which is public service and leadership. Nimefurahi sana.
Naam, asante sana kwa kuja, asante kwa kuitikia mwito. Na mtazamaji, kufikia hapo na ningependa kumpisha mwenzangu Nimrod Tabu naye atueleze upande wake kuko vipi. Karibia kaka.
Naam, asante sana Busara. Bila shaka nafikiri mgombea mwenza ameeleza vizuri. Ninaye mgombea mwenza pia mwingine alikuwa hapo katika jukwaa, Bi Ruth Mutua. Nafikiri pengine hisia za kwanza tu ulipowasili na mpaka sasa. Je, unasikia fursa hii umeitumia vizuri kuzungumza na wananchi? Manake kuna wengine ambao pengine walikuwa hawaja kuona kwa muda mrefu, kuchukua majukwaa kama haya na kuzungumzia manifesto.
Hii nafasi nimeifurahia, and I thank the Media Council for the opportunity that you've given unto us. We are not really competing against each other. Tumekubaliana na Justina, tumekuja kuleta the manifesto. What is this government coming to do? I have loved the interview. It was interactive, but not si ya kuleta mtu chini, ya kumuonesha this one is better than the other. Na pia ningeweza kufurahi kushukuru familia yangu, pia mimi bwana na watoto wamenishikilia for even this first time of a race. Nasema ni asanti.
Bila shaka tunatumai kwamba umeweka msingi wa yale ambao mnataka kufanya hata siku za usoni, lakini asante sana kwa muda wako. Bila shaka tukiwa na migaragazano kama hii tutakuwa tunatafutana na nyinyi. Haya basi, ndio kama ulivyosikia mtazamaji, wagombea wenza wote wakifurahia fursa hii kuweza kuzungumza na wananchi na kuuza sera zao kwa wale ambao walikuwa bado hawaja kuweza kuwafahamu ama kuwaelewa zaidi. Lakini kwa sasa hivi tunakwenda kwake Trevor Ombija, bado akili na wachanganuzi, kuzungumzia tu awamu ya kwanza na pia matamanio na yale yanayotarajiwa katika mdahalo wa pili.
Asante sana Nimrod na Busara there, but we come back to you. You're finishing your thoughts on why Justina is the one who impressed you.
Yes. So basically she said it herself just now, where she said she's passionate about public service. We saw that. She was able to bring it out. But also her opening statement, where she talked about, Kenyans, open your mind. So Roots Party is definitely different. We saw the difference. And she also closed it with Kenyans, open your mind. And I think that she has managed to do what she came to do. People are asking questions on, can industrial hemp make a difference to our economy? She has left Kenyans actually thinking about it rather than completely negating it. And so I think she has won this debate today.
All right. Prof, were your expectations met, and who impressed you this evening?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Trevor. I think my expectations have learned to make them very, very low, so they were met. there's no doubt about that. I think I really liked Justina and Roots Party. Yeah, because I like them not necessarily because of the issues they responded to, but as the other panelists have actually highlighted, as our democracy expands, we will be having different types of parties, pushing for different types of issues. And I think for the first time we are seeing a fringe party, being on the national agenda with a clear issue. And that issue is actually legalization of industrial hemp. And yes, whatever the case, whether we discussed hemp for too long or whatever it is, I think Kenyans learned a lot about that one single issue that Roots Party and Justina brought on board. When it came to Ruth, I thought that their party must also be having an issue that they wanted Kenyan to listen to, but it seemed like her issue was to oppose industrial hemp, and to oppose snake rearing, and to oppose export of hyenas to China. So Agano Party actually wasted our time and actually did not even use the platform for anything. Yes, but of course, I mean, what I'd hope to hear really was whether there was anything beyond you know, what we're hearing, the hemp and stuff like that. And I think Justina either tactically or otherwise chose not to discuss any of those things. Whether it's devolution, whether it's other, you know, issues around agriculture, whether it is, you know, youth employment, and all that. But on their single agenda of hemp, it was clearly put on the table. And my own suggestion to them is that they should not really campaign about anything else. The other things they can leave for Azimio and Kenya Kwanza. Let them focus on hemp and educate us accordingly.
Okay. Dr. Baraza, you know, on the issue of the rule of law, Justina says judiciary is the one that is to blame. Because in her own words, money will be used to sanitize whoever is accused of any matter. Do you agree with those statements? That it's the judiciary that is to blame?
Before I go to the judiciary, I want to support my colleague there about Justina and her hemp. Actually, come to think of it, I use an oil called Indian hemp for my head. So if that hemp is the marijuana, then maybe she should focus there. I use Indian hemp on my head. The judiciary and Justina, I think, to a large extent, I think we need to pull up our socks in the judiciary. People, whether rightly or wrongly, they think the judiciary is the weakest link in our fight against corruption. The delays in cases, the drama that goes on around cases, especially cases on corruption. I think we need to. The institution needs to pull up its socks so that we can very, very ably deal with the issue of corruption.
Can the solution be the death penalty and death by hanging? Because the last time this happened, and Gashuri brought it out very well, was in 1987. She says that will instill fear if it is brought back.
We have the death penalty. It is there. It's not like it has been outlawed. It is there. And it is for capital offenses. I don't think corruption is a capital offense. So unless now we revisit it, but it is there. And I don't think it instills fear even in the murderers and the people who commit capital offenses. So I don't know. I think probably she needs to have given us more alternatives on how we can deal with corruption.
But we've not seen the death penalty being used since 1987. It is not used.
I think we develop cold feet when it comes to real hanging of people. So we have just put them there in committee. They are there, and nobody hangs them.
Okay.
So and it's true. We hung the last, I think, in 1987. 87.
Yeah.
All
right. Let me bring in Wanjiru on this. Wanjiru, on the issue of judiciary, Justina says it's the judiciary that has failed Chapter 6 of the Constitution. Do you agree?
Well, what I do agree is that we have a problem of corruption. And what I like about these two parties, unfortunately, too much time was spent on the Bangi issue and not enough on the other issues. But if you look at the manifestos, there is the hanging provision in the Roots Party, and then the Agano Party really, actually their centerpiece is fighting corruption. And all their recommendations are kind of built around that. And what I like about that is they are forcing, they may be fringe parties, but they are putting an issue that Kenyans, that bedevils our society, but Kenyans also feel about at the center stage. Because if you look at the larger parties, the Azimio Party, of course, has, a human rights crusader and a governance crusader for the deputy. But if you look at the manifesto proper, the proposals they have on fighting corruption have not been brought out. They are not quantified. They look like the platitudes that litter all our other proposals, copy paste, let us do this. So we are not getting action. If you look at the UDA manifesto, actually they're almost telling us, let's rethink this corruption thing. It's not that big a deal. They also have some good proposals to strengthen the redress institutions, but they're leaving out the leadership and integrity. So we need the fringe parties, and I hope they'll stay the course to keep this center stage. Is it the judiciary? Well, the judiciary is definitely a weak link. In fact, Transparency International did a study on the judiciary and found of all the institutions, it's possibly one where corruption is most rampant. But by the same token, part of the paradoxes of our governance, the judiciary has been the bulwark or the protector of the Constitution under this dispensation against an administration that was really violating the Constitution. So I wouldn't put it all on the judiciary, because we've got, how do cases start? Cases start in the administrative process, and there are administrative sanctions. We have a Commission on Administration of Justice. So a lot of the offenses that we have can be dealt with administratively, but the public service doesn't work. From the people they hire, from the people who sit on the public service, from the people who get into public offices. So the moment you have the wrong people sitting in these offices, you begin to dilute the process. When these violations happen, they'll get investigated by the Auditor General, and the Controller of Budget can stop finances in some cases. Once these reports come to Parliament, what happens? And we've seen what happens with corruption cases, including the COVID, including the NYS reports. We've seen Parliament expunging the names of some of the politically connected individuals, so that you get a report with a bunch of facts, leaving out the perpetrators and those most responsible. We've seen the President promise to release beneficial ownership information. This is who are the companies that are taking part in government procurement, so that we can hold those people to account. And this hasn't happened. So we can't put it all on the judiciary. We have a very robust legal and administrative institutional framework, but the culture, what we want to hear is, what's the culture that we, how do we change the culture? How do we enforce the laws that are there?
And Asaska, what are your thoughts on this when the candidate is blaming the judiciary and saying that the death penalty will instill some sort of fear?
I'll agree with what Daktari and Wanjiru has mentioned, but I also don't want to 100% blame the judiciary, because our constitution is progressive, and the judicial systems are quite independent. So I think we are progressing, however slow, into having perfect judicial systems in place that deliver justice and fairness. So I wouldn't blame it 100%.
No. So Prof, what are your thoughts on this? Is it the judiciary, is that the weakest link when it comes to fighting graft?
Actually, that's nonsense. We know exactly the problem with the corruption in this country. Corruption in this country is a leadership issue. And it goes to what fellow panelists are saying there, that we do have enough administrative instruments to deal with this. If a president of the country is telling us that people are stealing in his government, whose responsibility is it to stop those people from stealing? It is not the judiciary. It is the president. And the president actually has adequate room in law to be able to replace people who are thieves and even who've been suspected of theft. I think if you look at the judiciary, if you look at Article 6 of the Constitution, I think that it sets a leadership standard. It sets a standard for public leaders. It is not just there actually for leaders who fail the criminal test. If I'm a famous thief, you don't need to prove that Romania is a thief so as not to put me in, to block me from getting into public office. Corruption in this country will only end if we have leaders who are not corrupt. We can create new laws. We can create new institutions to fight corruption. We can threaten to hang people. But, and not just in the country, we know that corruption in private sector
is normally when the CEO is corrupt or condones the corruption. Corruption in counties is when those governors are actually corrupt or condone corruption. Counties that have not wanted, that have actually wanted to serve the public properly and ensure that public resources are used properly, they are being done, and it's not because of the judiciary.
Yeah.
The president, yes, and we've been told the president has promised us over and over again to tell us who are these beneficial owners of companies, who are running the SGR, who are in the expressway, and so on.
Yeah.
I'm happy to say on national TV that as far as I'm concerned, the president himself has failed that test to lead from the front. In fact, I actually think that the president and his deputy condone corruption. And that's why this animal will continue. As long as we keep electing leaders who condone corruption, we can cry whatever we want. We can point fingers. We can create 10 cases. But corruption will actually continue.
Yeah.
For me, it actually starts and ends with leadership.
Okay, Nerima, what are your thoughts on that?
I think just to add on what has already been mentioned, we need to talk about asset recovery.
Yeah.
The Kroll report did, mention, especially during Moi's regime, a lot of resources, ill-gotten wealth, was transferred to Swiss accounts. So in 2018, when the former President Alain Berset visited Kenya, he signed an agreement with President Kenyatta called FRAC, the Framework for the Return of Assets from Corruption and Crime in Kenya. Where did that go? What has happened with that? I think that there are frameworks in place in our country to make sure or to support our resources to come back in. Because as much as we're talking about corruption within, which is current, there's corruption from previous decades of mismanagement and terrible leadership and bad governance that we also need to talk about, that is overseas. And bringing these resources back, I think it's important for our candidates to highlight how they plan to do that, not just focusing on the judiciary. So I do agree that it has everything and a lot to do with leadership in place.
Yeah, and Dr. Baraza, one of the things that she brought out is closely related to what Professor is saying. Justina said that it's Kenyans themselves who are to blame for bad leadership. Do you agree with that statement?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We know corruption is rampant. We know what it is doing to us. But we are ready to vote in corrupt leaders. We don't condemn corruption. We are ready. Only we are the ones who vote in these fellows. And so I think to that extent she's right. And on the issue of the judiciary, I think, let me go back to it. It's just one of the many institutions. And there are instances of corruption in that institution, but that doesn't mean that the entire judiciary is to blame for corruption. I think all our institutions, the entire leadership of this country is responsible for corruption.
Okay.
And so I think to that extent, she's quite right. And Kenyans ourselves determine the kind of leadership that we want. And so if we elect corrupt people, we put them in place, and they come and play musical chairs on us. We are promised there is going to be a lifestyle audit. We are all ears out waiting for the lifestyle audit, and that is the surest way of finding out how we are making our money and who is making this money, and then it stops. We don't hear about it anymore, and we continue.
Okay.
And right now, I think our biggest problem is celebration of money. We don't care where money has come from. Our little boys and girls are driving the most expensive vehicles in this country. Our economy is a small economy. Where are we getting this money from? We don't ask those questions. We are celebrating corruption.
Okay. Wanjiru, is it the electorate that is to blame for all the mess that we are in?
No, I respectfully disagree. I think it is, sometimes we don't understand why some of these political decisions are made. When you look at, some of the candidates, like let's say Mike Sonko, he's been impeached in one, ran Nairobi to the ground, yet there's an indication that he may get acceptance in Mombasa had the court allowed him to do so. But I think those might be outliers and also might be ignoring the many factors. So many factors go into the voting decision. including the electoral process. If we had an electoral process in 2013 that had to be challenged up to the Supreme Court because there were doubts on the way it was managed, and if again in 2017 I went, voted, Kenyans went, voted, and the presidential result had to be annulled and overturned because the process was manipulated, with a weak electoral system, you actually impede the ability of the confidence of Kenyans in the electoral and the leadership election process, and the ability to remove bad leaders. Linked to the electoral process is the party nomination process, where you have maybe two bad candidates or two candidates implicated of corruption. They may be good in other ways, maybe then Kenyans don't really have a choice. The other thing is, like I said earlier, our civic education is actually a duty of government if you look at the law, but it hasn't been taking place. And you have to ask yourself, why did the Jubilee administration frustrate the civic education and civil engagement pillar of engagement? Because they did. They were deregistering institutions. They were refusing to allow development funders to fund civic education and voter education. So if you do not build up a critical consciousness among the citizens, what do you expect? They are going to fall privy to the lies and propaganda that the politicians peddle out. Last thing is, socially, the incentives work for corruption. Those who have fought corruption pay a very bitter price. Whether it's John Githongo now paying 10 million for exposing the Anglo leasing, whether it was Jacinta Mwatela, who was hounded out of Central Bank for refusing corruption, whether it's David Munyakei, who exposed Goldenberg and he died a pauper's death. So the social incentives favor corruption because the political elite are benefiting. So blaming the citizen is victim blaming. Maybe last I can say is professionals. Look at what happened in Kenyatta University when a professional stood up and said no. So we also need professionals of courage and integrity to stop being bullied when they're given the wrong instructions.
Asaska, is it the people who are to blame for this?
Trevor, first of all, before I answer your question, I think we would like to appreciate the fact that Kenya's democratic space has really grown over time. And one, it's because look at the fringe parties, the Roots Party and the Agano Party. They have a huge space right now to explain to Kenyans what they really stand for and what they will bring to the table for Kenyans. And yes, you're asking me, is the corruption, are we to blame the electorate?
Asaska, now I think you get one interruption also. It's fair play for everyone. We think everybody's interrupted at least once. You can see now on your screens that the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance deputy presidential candidate, Honorable Martha Karua, is now here, ready for the debate, which is starting in the next 30 minutes from now. It's going to take 1.5 hours, where they're going to outline the reasons why they're running for office and why they should be elected. Right after that, what is going to happen is they're going to take a ballot session. In that ballot session, whoever picks the first number is the one who will make the opening remarks first. I think she's accompanied by her family there. So once that happens, the second person is the one who will also make the closing remark second. That's Honorable Martha Karua coming in for the debate that's going to take place in just a short while there, but 1.5 hours of it, where Kenyans, you can send in your questions as well on 22843, and we'll cross over to them and find out whether she's ready for the debate that is about to kick off in the next half an hour. And Ken Mijungu is now standing right there with Michelle Ngele. Ken?
Deputy presidential running mate under the Azimio One Kenya coalition just arrived 25 minutes to the debate. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good, and you can see I'm surrounded by my grandchildren.
Yes. You want to say something? You want to say something?
Hi, people.
Are you ready for this debate?
Very. Yes.
All right. Say something.
Hi.
Do you wish her well?
Okay. Yes. No,
all right.
Please vote for Azimio.
All right, that is Martha Karua. She is the second candidate to arrive for this debate, setting the stage for the debate. Among many others, Kenyans expecting a heated debate, where amongst center stage will be how these candidates will implement their manifestos. Trevor.
Thank you, Michelle and Ken Mijungu there, speaking to the deputy presidential candidate for the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance. Honorable Martha Karua has just walked into the podium. The debate kicks off in the next half an hour from now. They'll first go into the balloting session where they pick their numbers. That will determine who will make the opening remarks and who will be the first one to make closing remarks as well. But as Aska, we are talking about now, we have to switch gears. As you finish your talks on that, let's now talk about the one that's coming, the debate that's coming. What are your expectations for this particular debate between Honorable Rigathi Gachagua and Honorable Martha Karua?
Yeah. First, before we jump into that, can I finish on the corruption?
Yes.
Thank you, Trevor. So in regards to corruption, I think one thing that I want to bring it out is an overall lack of commitment to fight corruption.
Yeah.
And it begins from our household level all the way to the top leadership. I think it's time for us to be serious about corruption, for us to face corruption head on, because I think we're losing a lot of money to corruption and it needs to go to better use.
Okay.
And the other issue is, are we blaming the 22 million voters? No, yes. In one way, yes, we vote to people we know, most likely experienced politicians. As much as we have the fringe candidates, we feel like we go with who is famous and who we know based on our tribal and ethnic lines.
Yeah.
So changing gears here.
Okay.
What I expect on the second time of the debate is on both Kenya Kwanza manifesto and the Azimio manifesto. They really have some impressive commitments, and one of it is enhancing devolution.
Yeah.
I want to see how well they're going to articulate the issue of devolution, particularly increasing the shareable county revenue. And the other thing is both parties are huge on social protection as a development policy. And one good example is the 600 Kenya shillings cash transfers to the most vulnerable community members.
6,000.
6,000, yeah. And my question is, as much as this makes an economic sense, is it affordable?
Yeah.
Where is the physical sustainability of this initiative? We all know that social protection plays a big role, and it will definitely bring about equity and inclusive economic value to the beneficiaries.
Yeah.
But as much as there's no clear cut on the criteria and how many people. I know we have roadside declaration. There's about 2 million people, but I'd like to hear from Ms. Karua on how well they're going to execute this.
Okay. Professor Menya, what clarifications are you seeking from debate 2, which is about to begin between Rigathi Gachagua and Honorable Martha Karua?
Yeah, thank you. I think we are really looking forward to this debate, and one of the major issues we have looked at the manifestos of the two parties. One is called a plan, the other one is called a manifesto for Azimio and for Kenya Kwanza. And the question really that I'll be interested in those candidates are answering is, what problem are they trying to solve?
Yeah.
What is ailing Kenya? I think both of those parties have totally ignored what is ailing Kenya, and they're not talking about it. Of course, yes, we're talking corruption. That is costing the country almost 700 billion. That is more than 1.5 times what we send to the counties. We are talking about a country on the verge of bankruptcy, paying 70% of our GDP, 1.3 trillion in debt. Is that debt sustainable? And are they giving us specifics? We are talking about a country where the price of unga fortunately was reduced, but of course, unfortunately, nobody can access it yet. And what Kenyans may not understand is that nearly half the country, 20 million people, are within that poverty bracket. People earning 200 shillings a day. That's the price of unga. There are 20 million Kenyans who cannot put food on the table. I need to hear from them what went wrong with Uhuru Kenyatta's economic policies and what they'll do differently. Of course, Wajakoya has told us they'll rear snakes. We need to hear from Azimio and Kenya Kwanza what they will actually do differently.
Okay.
I need specifics. I need people who will be talking about Kenyans. Who are these Kenyans? Where are they? How many are they? If you're going to create jobs, where? How many jobs?
Yeah.
How will that solve the job problem? We are talking about a country where you're looking at over 40 million, both poor and rich, who cannot actually be able to access basic health.
Yeah.
These are some of the issues that we'll be talking about. But one of the things that cannot run away from is corruption. We need to actually have clear plans on the table. Because honestly, corruption, in fact, if you look at our expenditure currently as a country, the biggest expenditure is debt. That's at 70%, 1.3 trillion.
Yeah.
The second one is civil servants pay at around 800, 900 billion. The third one is corruption at between 600 to 700 billion. The money we are giving the counties is actually comes a distant fourth or fifth. So basically what we are saying is that, look here, as long as we'll continue being corrupt, as long as government has no clear, these future governments have no clear plan to nip corruption at the bud, then these guys should just pack and go home. We chop up the country and share the loot and maybe immigrate to other great places like Uganda.
All right, Nerima, what are you looking forward to?
For me, for this one, I'm going to be biased and look at what they are giving or what they're offering young people.
Yeah.
As much as it's going to heavily rely on opportunities, I think the questions I will be looking for answers to are specific to the Aga Khan University report of 2016, which people really like to quote. And I read that 50% believe it doesn't matter how one makes money, but we forget that another 50% care how you make money. How are you going to answer that? And when you read on, 47% admire those who make money. They don't care how. But remember, there's another 53% who care how you make money. How are you going to speak to those youth? And then there's 30% who believe that corruption is profitable. 70% do not believe that corruption is profitable. So what are some of the responses they're going to give to that 70%?
Yeah.
And then finally, the fact that 73% are afraid to stand up for what is right. Why is that number so high? It shouldn't be that high. That means only 27% of young people in this country believe in standing up for what is right.
Yeah.
How are they going to make the environment conducive for young people to support the fight against corruption? But I think as well, another thing that concerns me is not even just how we're going to have the resources or things like that. It's the participation of young people.
Yeah.
Because in 2016, that same report said that 90% of young people are interested in engaging in politics.
Yeah.
The data from IEBC clearly shows us that only 39% are interested in participating in this election. So, whoever wins in this election has to deal with a population of young people that have decided to clock out.
Yeah.
They don't believe in your leadership already, and they chose not to participate by even registering. How are you going to manage that population? And how are you going to offer solutions to a population that didn't even believe in lining up to vote for you?
Yeah.
And how are you going to do it in a very difficult economy? And so integrity will be key, because we'll have to manage the amount of resources that we have.
Yeah.
And youth will have to see where their taxes are going. Taxes are high. We are all paying them indirectly. And a number of youth in that 2016 report do not believe in paying their taxes. Guess what? That number has increased as well. So how would you convince the youth that their taxes is being used for the betterment of this country, and they're able to see the results of them paying those high taxes?
Okay. Dr. Baraza, are you expecting anything different before I come to you, Asaska? Are you expecting anything different for debate 2, which is about to kick off?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Very, very concrete strategies on how they are going to deal with these issues that touch very directly on Kenyans. They are talking about socio-economic programs to alleviate the immediate problems of the majority of Kenyans.
Yeah.
The women, they are, I think Azimio Moja is talking about women and children, the vulnerable ones.
Yeah.
And I think I agree with Wanjiru. This 6,000 into the pocket, you know, I hope it's not just a promise. Kenyans are hurting, Kenyans are hungry. I think I need to understand that, how that money is going to be sourced and when, because Kenyans are waiting. Issue of devolution, I want to hear concrete steps towards strengthening of devolution. Women, of course, I want to hear about what it is they are going to do with women.
Okay.
And yeah.
All right. Saskia, you wanted to jump in?
Yes.
Yeah.
Trevor, I wanted to let you know that I feel very privileged sitting in this panel tonight because I'm a minority, I'm a woman, I'm Rendile from Marsabit, and I like that Azimio Manifesto have mentioned about peace and security. And I know as an individual, as a resident of one of the northern frontier counties, Article 238 of our Constitution does guarantee peace and security for every Kenyan. And I feel like as a northerner, we've been left out. Particularly, most of you know about the conflict in Marsabit. People are being killed every single day. Unfortunately, it does not make it to news. And what I'm expecting today is to see what Ms. Karua and Mr. Gachagua have for the northern frontier counties.
Okay.
And one, on peace and security. Number two, on equal access to education and health. And more so security, because we know peace and security are the main drivers of our economic development. And that's why we are so behind.
Yeah.
I'm really keen, quite biased, if you may say so, but I want to see what they have for the northern frontier counties.
Okay. Wanjiru, one other thing that we have to touch on before we cross over to the debate is the affirmative action. Yeah, the Kenya Kwanza manifesto talks about giving 50% of the positions to women. Same as Azimio also talks about empowering the women in their manifesto as well. But is this all about positions, and how come we've consistently failed on the 2/3 gender rule?
Right. I think the failure of the 2/3 gender is similar to, also has fallen to the, the lack of implementation of the promise. But there's also the issue of patriarchy, which means it is more difficult for women to access capital for their businesses. It is more difficult for women in politics. And so that is why the affirmative action comes in, to level the engagement ground.
Yeah.
And we'd like to see, of course, we've already seen today that 3 of the parties have already begun to implement the affirmative action principle by ensuring that the candidate for DP is a woman.
Yeah.
And so we need to look at their proposals, but also the actions of the party as they go on, because we don't want any more false, empty promises, so to speak. And of course, when women get in there, they need to ensure they push for that gender principle. And then on the issue, the expectations, really building upon what the panelists have said, at the minimum, we are part of the Okoa Uchumi campaign, which has been looking at the issue of public debt that has been driven by budgeted corruption. So at the minimum, we are looking at what are the concrete strategies for economic recovery, what are the concrete strategies for economic transformation, so that we can create jobs and so that we can have a balanced budget and we can generate enough money to implement the projects that we need and a good life for all Kenyans.
Yeah.
That's the minimum. And I believe that the parties have crafted their proposals, so we'll be hearing that. I think the other thing that is maybe the game changer, as far as I'm concerned, as the Institute for Social Accountability, we've been investigating this issue of the culture. What has happened to our social accountability culture?
Yeah.
And it, at the center of this is we need to be very intentional about changing the way citizens engage with their public leaders, to move away from the dependency approach to move away from the patrimonial approach to one of empowered citizens exercising their agency, being patriotic, responsible citizens, but having voice and having the space to engage. So I'm very keen to hear what's the role of the citizens? What's the empowering role of the citizens? Linked to that, what are the strategies to transform the public sector? Because corruption doesn't just happen, outside of a framework. There are public servants who are recruited who approve these schemes across the way. Like I said, we've seen an amazing example just this last week when the dean of Kenyatta University refused to hand over land to the cabinet president. Because it was unprocedural, and that shows a lot of courage. So and then also maybe borrowing from Nerima, who gave us, who looked at the study from a positive point of view. When we go back to the Kibaki regime, much as the Kibaki regime didn't do well in fighting corruption, they did have the prime minister's, under the prime minister's office, the public sector transformation unit. And that unit is the one that transformed the way we get our IDs issued, our passports renewed. And in a space of just 3 months, we went from queuing and people having to bribe to being able to walk in and just get things done for you. That was done by Kenyans in real time. So the public sector can be reformed, and we want to hear more of those. Then lastly, historical issues. There are land issues that are still pressing. There's a Truth and Justice Reconciliation report. Those issues are still pending, and I believe a lot of the problems we have at present is the failure to address those issues.
All right, a lot to be packed within 1.5 hours. But Dr. Baraza, you brought up the issue of women and the role they play. How come we've consistently not been able to implement the 2/3 gender rule?
Patriarchy. I think she has nailed it. Patriarchy. Parliament has on several occasions failed to pass the bill on the legislative framework for realization of the not more than 2/3 gender rule. So there has been a lack of political will to push that agenda. But basically, it's patriarchy.
Does the solution lie in appointments? Because the Kenya Kwanza manifesto says they'll give 50% of all appointive positions to women. Is that a solution?
I think it would be, but it would be better if it is within a framework. Because it can be done today and the following time it is not there. That's why we need a legislative framework for it. But that would be a good beginning if they give women those numbers. But still, we'll need the legal framework to sustain it.
Professor Menya, what are your thoughts? Is it just patriarchy? Is that where the problem lies? Is that why we've been unable to get through the 2/3 gender rule?
I think again it's a leadership issue still. And I agree 100% with Dr. Baraza on this one, that the leadership that we have been given, look at this thing as tokenism. I think it is quite possible to implement this within the existing frameworks we have if parties actually put mechanisms within the party themselves. I mean, one obvious example would be to use party lists. And within the party list, you ensure that, the different genders are represented accordingly, so that if a particular gender quota is down, then of course you go for the other gender. Yes, but of course we know that they are not interested in doing this. The day they would be, it will actually reflect. Is very, very easy to do. We have very many competent Kenyan women. And let me say on air, without any fear of contradiction, that in the architecture department at the University of Nairobi, where I was, we are almost reaching gender parity. 50-50 on the students. But it's because we believed there was nothing wrong with a Kenyan girl in terms of studying architecture, and we went out to schools and talked to them, and they came not on affirmative action. They came on competence. We have enough competent Kenyan women. In fact, I think the problem is the other way around, that we have so many incompetent men occupying positions, and you can't figure out why. Yes, so I think it is political will. Under this one, I believe that, in fact, the political parties in government must be forced using legal frameworks to actually realize gender parity as was envisaged in the Constitution.
Yeah, but Nerima, what are your thoughts on this? Because there's someone who complains and says that the critics say that even those same appointments that we're talking about tend to be very skewed, and it's more about a political reward for political loyalists rather than the people who are competent.
There's a sense of that, but also this time it's a little bit different because party lists have been rejected. The parties had tried to put in individuals as favors, people who had stood for elective seats and lost them in the primaries, for instance. And, you know, IBC was very, very clear in ORPP. And so when they submitted them, they were rejected, and they've been given a timeline within a week, which is ending this week, to submit a new list. So we have seen the challenges in the space, and the right institutions are working toward fixing those challenges. But I also feel that the public doesn't quite understand the role of women representatives.
Nerima, I have to interrupt you one more time because we're crossing over to the balloting session now. This is an important session. Let's see what's going on there with Nimrod Tabu and was taking us through that.
Haya, basi. Naam, asante sana Trevor. Bila shaka kama tulivyofahamu katika awamu ya kwanza, Mheshimiwa Rigathi Gachagua yuko hapa, Mheshimiwa Bi Martha Karua vile vile, wote wamefika hapa, ugombea mwenza kutoka Kenya Kwanza na vile vile Azimio. Tutafanya kama tulivyofanya desturi ya kwanza, nitawaruhusu mmoja achukue kijikaratasi na mwingine. Asante sana. Halafu tuwaonyeshe watazamaji, yule atakayekuwa kwanza basi atakuwa ni wa kwanza kuingia katika jukwaa na kuweza kujitambulisha na kupata fursa ya kujibu swali la kwanza. Asanteni sana na natakia kila laheri katika mdahalo wa leo. Asante mtazamaji na kurudisha kwake Trevor. Thank you so much.
Point, because the balloting then means whoever picked the first number is the one who will make first opening remarks and will be the first to make closing remarks as well. So that will be Honorable Rigathi Gachagua of the Kenya Kwanza team who will make the first opening remarks and also the closing remarks. Yes, Nerima, we're coming to you before we cross over to the debate which is about to begin in the next 3 minutes.
Yes, I think that one way to debunk a lot of these positions is understanding the roles of them. And for women representative, I feel a lot of people complain about that position because they don't necessarily understand the role of women representative. Because a lot of people come to me and say, how much does she get? What does she even do there? Is it even necessary? I wish we would ask the same questions about our members of parliament across the board and ask them evenly so that we have the right people representing us and understanding how important it is to have people who qualify to represent us.
Yeah, but as a young person, Nerima, what inspires the youth to vote? Because there are those who claim now, just like Justina just said, that it's the people who are electing the wrong leaders. What inspires them to vote?
They have to be able to recognize an individual who identifies with them and their issues. I see a lot of youth who follow people that they feel are speaking sense to them.
All right. I have to take a quick break now. When we come back, it's time for debate number 2 between Honorable Rigathi Gachagua and Honorable Martha Karua. That will be moderated by Sophia Wanuna and James Smart. Stay with Deputy Presidential Debates.
Karibu CAM. By offering market linkages, networking opportunities, and technical assistance, Kenya Association of Manufacturers assists its members to grow and scale up their businesses. Join us and let us work together to grow the manufacturing sector. Becoming a CAM member is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Kenya Association of Manufacturers, driving global competitiveness.
When we hate, demonize, and divide, we become them and us. But when we unite in solidarity,
na mauaji ya kiolela yanayofanyika katika mitaa yetu duni,
compassion and respect, our actions become more powerful.
I think the most important quality of a leader is wisdom, so that the decisions that are being made now, he knows how, it's like a chess player who sees 10 moves ahead.
Unajua wakati ambapo mlipa ushuru analipa ushuru wake, anataka aone angalau kazi ya pesa yake ambayo anailipia. Hii pesa tunaamini kwa zinaishia kwa mifuko za watu binafsi.
I think it's important that wealth is declared frequently, and if people have found ways to accumulate wealth very quickly, absolutely good for them, as long as, of course, that is done honestly and ethically.
We need leaders who are well educated to understand the challenges that we face in the modern world.
Kwa mfano, mtu mwenye amesomea ukandarasi wa barabara, mkiwa na kiongozi ambaye amesomea hiyo taaluma, una uhakika kwamba barabara za eneo lako zitakuwa zina usimamizi mzuri.
What is a secondary school in Kenya? It ranges from 106 high-cost national schools educating 3% of the learners, where you find ultra-modern libraries and laboratories, the most experienced principals and teachers, and the best teacher-student ratios. To 7,019, some barely established, understaffed, lacking basic facilities, sub-county schools, educating over 60% of learners. Given that KCSE is the most consequential examination in our education system, isn't it fair that we level the ground for all learners to excel by narrowing the capacity gaps between the worst and best schools to deliver quality education? Usawa Agenda calls for a sub-county schools upgrading program and a change from the capitation model to enable small schools to grow. Without these, SDG 4 is a false promise to most Kenyan children.
Check it. Let's talk about banking. Or let's talk about dreams and goals. Your dreams, your goals.
If you're like Louise, you value doing biz with ease. Or maybe you're like Dan, a family man with a plan. At Diamond Trust Bank, it starts with one dream, one goal, one deposit, and one transaction. Pamoja, let's make it happen. So don't just bank with us, bank on us.
Enroll at Catholic University of Eastern Africa for courses in nursing, law, business, economics, computer science, education, community health and development, actuarial science, international relations, counseling psychology, regional integration and theology. September intake ongoing at Langata and Eldoret campuses. Email admissions@quair.edu or visit quair.edu. Quair, for innovative, marketable graduates.
Good evening and welcome to the Pope Paul VI Learning Resource Center at the Catholic University of Eastern Africa. My name is James Smart of NTV.
And I am Sophia Wanuna of KTN News. Welcome to the second and last of two debates between the running mates of the four presidential candidates cleared to run for president in the forthcoming election. This is the fourth of 6 national televised debates organized through a joint media presidential debates initiative, bringing together literally the entire Kenyan media fraternity.
The candidates participating in the debate have agreed to the rules and guidelines requiring them to conduct themselves with utmost decorum, address each other with respect, and extend honor to viewers watching this debate live across all Kenya's broadcast media platforms.
Indeed, and the candidates in the debate have also agreed to adhere to the allocated time. Each candidate has 2 minutes to make an opening statement, 2 minutes to answer a question, and 60 seconds for a rebuttal. The topics have carefully been selected after a thorough assessment of the state of our nation and the sentiments of the regular Kenyan voters in various parts of this country.
In line with the debate rules and the best practices, the questions we shall ask have not been shared with any of the campaign teams. Neither were they discussed or formulated in conjunction with anyone. The questions are entirely our own.
And an invited audience here seated in the auditorium has also agreed to the debate rules. They have been fully briefed that cheers, jeers, or any other form of noise is not permitted during the debate. We have to make the exception now as we request the audience to help us warmly welcome Honorable Martha Karua and Honorable Rigathi Gachagua to the stage. Karibuni sana. Honorable Rigathi Gachagua occupying podium 1 in order of that balloting exercise we just witnessed a few moments ago. You have heard the rules of the debate and we look forward to a fruitful engagement this evening. We'll begin with your opening statement, Mr. Gachagua, in 2 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Rigathi Gachagua, born and brought up in the slopes of Mount Kenya, Herega village 57 years ago. Family is the basic unit of society and the nation. Strong families make strong nations. I'm the head of a family, and it is my pleasure and privilege to introduce my family tonight, who are here with me. My wife of 35 years, Pastor Dorcas Wanjiku Rigathi, and my firstborn son, Kevin Gachagua, a software engineer, and my secondborn son, Dr. Keith Ikino, a medical doctor who helps me to run family business. Tonight is a defining moment for the people of Kenya. The people of Kenya are in anguish. They are in a state of helplessness. They have no food. They don't know where to get their next meal. They are devastated. They need hope. Tonight, I'll present the Kenya Kwanza plan on how we intend to turn around the economy of this country, put people where they belong, restore their dignity, put money in their pocket, and allow them to enjoy their dignity. I look forward to a very objective debate, no trivialities, issues, 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 so that the people of Kenya have an opportunity to interrogate what we plan to do for them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gachagua. Madam Martha Karua, karibu, now your 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you, Sophia. I was born and brought up in Kirinyaga, and I want to thank my parents who are still alive, thank God, for instilling the values of honesty, hard work, community, and respect, values that hold good to this day. In this debate and in the audience, I have my family, my 2 children, Wawira and Edward, my grandchildren, 4 of them, my brothers and sisters, some of them, others are online. I represent the Azimio hope for this country. Azimio, together with Kenyans of goodwill, is out to rescue this country from the stranglehold of corruption cartels. This country can't breathe. We cannot get the services that people do require because monies intended for public service are going into the pockets of corruption cartels who then become instant millionaires with huge bank balances. We intend to help this country, to help citizens get their country back, and all the resources of this country will be utilized for the best interests of the entire nation, not a select few. I am here to discuss those issues, and I am glad that my opponent is also talking of issues, which is what we have been calling for in our campaign. I'm able, ready, and willing.
Thank you very much, candidates, for your opening statements. Let's introduce the elephant in the room and start this debate. The question of the Deputy President. It has dominated public consciousness in the last 5 years. I'll start with you, Honorable Rigathi Gachagua. What kind of a Deputy President will you be? You have 2 minutes.
I come from a background of management. I have been in public service for 15 years. I've been in private sector for 15 years. I've been in legislation for 5 years. That gives a 35-year experience of public service and engaging with the people. I am a hard-working man. I'm very passionate. I have zeal to serve. I'm an active man. I wake up early. I don't take alcohol. I have all the time and the commitment to put my all to serve the people of Kenya. I have a very good idea of what I need to do to assist my candidate, Dr. William Ruto, in the management of the affairs of this country, give him backup, be available, move around the country to implement development programs, listen to the people, be available to the people, because we have the bottom-up economic model. It's about the people. If you have noted, we have gone around the country in all the 47 counties and held economic forums, listened to the people, had very extensive consultative process of what the people of Kenya want from us. And that informed our manifesto. And we were not surprised that critics were saying our manifesto is too detailed and meticulous. It had to be, because it had to capture the issues, the aspirations of the Kenyan people, what they want us to do for them. And our manifesto is a clear plan that is informed by what the people of Kenya want us to do for them, to dignify them, to improve their quality of life, and to give them a chance to prevail and be men and women of substance.
Thank you. Honorable Karua, the same question. What kind of a Deputy President will you be?
I'll be a Deputy President who is respectful of the Constitution, of the people of Kenya, of my principle, and a person who will obey the rule of law and do the best to support my captain to deliver for this country. The oath of office dictates that the interests of the public are paramount in everything a government does. I will help my captain to stick to the rule of law, to ensure that what is in the Constitution is fulfilled. Our Constitution dictates that we adopt a social market economy where social justice is in the forefront. That is why Article 46, not 47, talks of socio-economic rights. You will notice that in our manifesto, we are talking about giving social support to those who cannot have any income, who do not at the moment have any income. And that's one way of fulfilling the promise of the Constitution and ensuring that Kenyans live in dignity, especially those who cannot afford the basics of life. I will therefore serve with honesty, and my track record speaks of that I have been a consistent public servant who does her work in the manner prescribed by the law, with honesty, with dedication. I will devote 100% to the people of Kenya.
All right. The question on the deputy president, it's public domain, that the current president and his deputy are reading from two different scripts. In the last 5 years, we've seen that effect in public domain. Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, if that happens, what is your view? How should that be solved? How should that be sorted?
In my case and Dr. William Ruto, that will not happen. Both of us are strong-willed leaders who respect each other. None of us suffers from inferiority complex. At no time will William Ruto ever punish me or mistreat me because he has no reason to. I'll support him to be president, and he'll reciprocate that support. Between me and him, we are in agreement that we have no time to quarrel or disagree. We are inheriting a dilapidated country, a country that is on knees economically, a country that is facing an economic shutdown. We have no time for sideshows. We have no time for personal differences. We have no time for inferiority complex and competition that is unnecessary. We have a job to do. We are inheriting a 9 trillion debt. We are inheriting 6 million young people who have no jobs. 14 million Kenyans are in CRB. We have such a huge task ahead of us that it is unimaginable that Dr. William Ruto, Rigathi Gachagua, would digress on personal issues and petty matters to disagree at all. Each of us has a job well cut out. I have already been assigned to work on the economy. I have gone around the country listening to the people of Kenya. I have been to each and every county, and I brought those views that informed our manifesto. Going forward on election, our job is well cut out from day one. We have to implement our plan that is ready, and we have no time to disagree, to quarrel, to have different opinions. We are too busy to even imagine that we can disagree on any issue. We are brought together by a convergence that we need to serve the people of Kenya. And both of us love the people of Kenya and the ordinary people.
And Honorable Karua, as I come to you, I mean, at the beginning of the presidency now, as we have it in 2013, it would have been unimaginable that would be today witnessing the kind of fallout we are between the president and his deputy. So for you, how do you execute differently and ensure we do not see this kind of bad blood drawn out?
I think even when people have differences, because it is not possible for human beings to always think alike. That's why even our Constitution acknowledges diversity of opinion. It is imperative that all debates or disagreements or arguments on issues happen in-house, and what is brought to the public must be the result, the agreement on the positions. And I think I'm very well prepared, and I'll continue to pray and address my mind that, one, the overall leader is the president. I am the principal assistant. With that in mind, that I'm a delegate of the president and can be required to do any work to support the presidency and the administration, I'll be ready, and I am ready. I have served as a cabinet minister for 6.5 years. A cabinet minister is a delegate of the president. A deputy president is a first among equals within cabinet in being a delegate of the president. It's not a different position. We will be able to moderate any differences of opinion on any issues and to focus on serving Kenyans and to be respectful to Kenyans. Arguing in public, calling each other names in public is not only a disgrace, it's also not respecting Kenyans who elected and put us in office.
Yeah.
So I will be very conscious, and I've been commenting on the current situation, which does not commend itself to anyone.
Would you then perhaps going by the experience this country has gone through, in terms of the architecture of the Constitution, should we have a rethink, perhaps from an elective deputy president to an appointive one, so that if things do not work out for the sake of country, then the president has that latitude? 2 minutes.
Nothing wrong with the architecture of the Constitution, something wrong with our behavior. It is not that we need to amend to prescribe the relationship between the president and a deputy president. It is that we need to change our behavior, differ with respect, maintain deference for people who are above us, that even when you differ, the way you address them is in a way that tomorrow you can be able to once again sit and work together. And when it comes to my opponent saying that their manifesto or their plan was discussed by Kenyans, I want to remind Kenyans, Azimio was a product of a robust discussion, way ahead of anything our opponents have done. And my captain went around the country and he got Kenyans to express themselves, and that's how Azimio was born. That's how the agenda, the manifesto, was born. Consultative process as prescribed by the Constitution. We intend to continue with consultations, even in governance, because public participation is deeply embedded in the Constitution, which my principal and I fought so hard to put in place.
All right, Honorable Gadi, same question. Supposing this were to happen, we've seen before and it's been part of our history, people call themselves brothers and friends and then they have a fallout. Supposing this were to happen, would you think it would be possible and great for us to have the deputy president be an appointive position so that the president has the leeway essentially to fire you?
That is a hypothesis. I like to look at life from a positive perspective. I always look at a glass as half full, not half empty. I have no doubt in my mind that we are a formidable pair. We are a pair that has been brought together by a common convergence to serve the people of Kenya, to spearhead, chaperone, and implement the third liberation, that is the economic liberation for the people of Kenya. And what has brought us together is so important that no sideshows can come in between. The focus that is before us, the need to restore the dignity of the Kenyan people, is such an important aspect of our lives, of our leadership, that it is incomprehensible that we could think of having sideshows and things that are necessary. And by the way, the situation between President Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto has not been brought because of ideological differences. It has been brought because of inferiority complex.
Right.
People must allow strong leaders to prevail. And you shouldn't have a problem when your deputy is strong and sharp and focused. You should just be able to accommodate him and use that as a strength to serve the people of Kenya. Had President Uhuru Kenyatta, in a second term, allowed William Ruto to help him manage the affairs of this country, we will not be where we are today, where Kenyans have no food, where unga is at 250 shillings, that they have to run around to look for a package to try to deal with it to save this election on their part. If he had allowed Dr. William Ruto to help him like in the first term, all the stored projects will be going on. He should have used the strength of William Ruto and harness it and use it to augment his leadership and to strengthen it for the benefit of the people of Kenya.
However, Honorable Rigathi, just quickly to follow up on that, we have seen Martha Karua in 2009, it was, resign after they disagreed with the president as a minister. You saw the former deputy governor Nairobi, when they could not work with the governor, again resign. So isn't it on principle that those who push for, if it doesn't work out?
I don't think it is honorable to be a quitter. I think you must fight from within and pursue what you intended to do. When the Nairobi deputy governor quit, he left a vacuum in Nairobi, and that allowed President Uhuru Kenyatta to bring the military into the city. You know, because if he was there, the mess in Nairobi will not be. You cannot be a quitter. You must fight on. My sister, Martha Karua, quit President Mwai Kibaki's government when Kibaki needed him, when Kibaki was in trouble, when Raila Odinga was making life impossible for him. Mwai Kibaki needed Mother Karua. And at a time when Mother Karua needed to assist Mwai Kibaki, she quit. Mwai Kibaki is and has been the gentleman of Kenyan's politics, an amiable old man, a good man, a respectable man, a man who was listening to everybody. Any leader who could not work with Mwai Kibaki, I have serious doubt that leader can work with anybody else.
Just a quick reminder to the audience in the auditorium, we did agree to a set of rules. Silence, please. No laughing, cheering, jeering. Let's just follow the conversation to allow us to have civil engagement and for understanding and hearing every of the candidates as they articulate their thoughts.
Thank you very much, Mother Karua. Response?
For those who
You have
do
a minute
not
for that.
understand principle, they can never envisage resigning. But I do think it is dishonest to continue to take public salary, to take the privilege and all that goes with office when you know you can no longer deliver, either because of differences or because of other things. I respectively withdrew myself by resignation from Mwai Kibaki's government in a respectful manner, no name calling, such that we were able to continue when we meet to sit down and talk. I don't think the same can be said of Mr. Gashagua's principle. Entertaining disagreement outside government and publicly is disruptive. No wonder the government in which Mr. Gashagua's principle serves is unable to fight corruption because it's pulling in two different directions. That is why we have a paralysis today.
Honorable Martha Karua, the question on just what happens if you disagree with your principle and if your principle should have the right to essentially let you go, should we relook at that?
I think the way the Constitution is, you disagree in-house, you resolve it. I do not think there is anything that cannot be resolved unless if it's something that is unconstitutional, that is being demanded of me. I will remember the oath, my oath under the Constitution, that there are things, if they are outrightly illegal, I certainly cannot be party to. But happily, my principle is a believer in the rule of law and constitutionalism. And he is also a man who views everything through the lens of social justice. That is why we have a dignity package for those who cannot afford meals on their table. That is why we have Babacare to rescue Kenyans from lack of access to medical services. If you look at our agenda, you will see that this is an agenda that talks of the socio-economic rights of Kenyans, an inclusive agenda that has every Kenyan, whether poor or rich, as demanded by our Constitution. So I cannot stand here and honestly say that we shall have the same position on all things. That never happened, not even in Mwai Kibaki's government. But in 6.5 years which I served, I never publicly berated the government that I served or the president that I served. I just said my hands were tied and I withdrew. My principle differed with Mwai Kibaki, but all he said to the public is that I was not consulted. How they went back room and resolved, we never know. We only know they came out with a unanimous decision. That is what people who have respect for the public do. People who have respect for their offices do. But holding an office while not serving is dishonesty.
Honorable Gachagua, the same question, I realized didn't respond the last time. Should this position of Deputy President be an appointive position?
No. In fact, the framers of the Constitution were very clear that a Deputy President needed to enjoy mandate directly from the people. Why Azimio cannot push William Ruto to resign is because William Ruto is not an appointee of President Uhuru Kenyatta. He is elected by the people of Kenya. If it was the previous constitution, William Ruto would have been sacked a long time ago and replaced with Gideon Moi. And that was the plan. The plan was to provoke him, intimidate him, humiliate him, persecute him, and his friends and his allies so that he could quit government and allow President Uhuru Kenyatta to appoint somebody from a family that they share the same issues and the same values. But because William Ruto was elected, he was able to hold on to his position. And he continued serving the people of Kenya when he was assigned duties by the president. The duty he has been allocated all the time without failure is to welcome the president and the Nyayo National Stadium. And he has done it in style because that is the duty he has been allocated. He has gone ahead to chair IBEC because that one the president cannot deny him. It is there in the PMF Act. There's nothing the president would have done. But the president chose not to allocate him duties. And the president has been crying that since he did not allocate him duties, his government has come to a halt. And nothing is going on. But he made a bed, he must lie on it. If you decide to chase your deputy away, a man who works hard, a man who knows what he's doing, and replace him with your friends, and then the country comes to a halt, you cannot go ahead crying that you have nobody to help you. He made that decision for you.
All right, Honorable Gachagua, Honorable Karua, I want us to move to the next topic this evening, leadership and integrity, fitness to hold office. I will begin with you, Honorable Karua, and in 2013, when you vied for presidency, you said, I do not share any values with the Prime Minister, then Raila Odinga, nor do I share his politics. Both he and the late Kibaki have been unable to root out corruption within their ranks. What has changed now that you're deputizing him?
Indeed, the coalition government was unable to root out corruption in the second house so publicly many times. Raila Odinga was a presidential candidate in 2013. I too was a presidential candidate. My statement that they were unable to fight corruption did not indicate they are the ones individually perpetuating corruption. It meant there was corruption in government which they failed to act on. I believe that a combined ticket of Raila Odinga, Martha Karua will do the best to fight corruption. I resigned on principle because one of the things I felt let down on is the failure to tackle issues of graft. Raila was a prime minister, a co-principal, the president, the late President Kibaki was the first among equals as the president. Whatever dynamics, I do not know of. But it is recalled that shortly after that election, I worked with Raila. Na Kenya and I were friends of NASA, not NASA, of CORD. And we worked together until 2017 when I decided to run for governor and supported Jubilee. We have been able to work together, have a history of working together in our 30 years of being in active politics, and I know that his policies align with mine. I did mention that we both view our actions through the lens of social justice. And that is what has drawn me to work with him.
Just a quick 1 minute, I will add you on your time that when you said I do not share any values, you've addressed the issue of corruption and graft, but you do not share any values and even agree on his brand of politics. What do you say to that? Because values, this is...
As of that time, I felt I did not share anything with him. And remember, we were candidates. There is no way you will praise the other candidate. But I can assure you that it is not because I thought he personally was responsible of any wrongdoing, nor did I feel that President Kibaki was personally responsible. But there were rogues within government they failed to act on. And I felt my hands were tied in the performance of my duties. And therefore, as I campaigned for myself, I actually was saying, look, you've been unable to fight corruption, just like the Jubilee administration under President Uhuru Kenyatta and Dr. William Ruto. And they are still in government together up to now. And we saw Dr. Ruto attending cabinet a week ago. They've been unable to fight corruption. You can't hold one side of government and say the good one is mine and the bad one belongs to the other person. That's doublespeak.
Honorable Gachagua, just
Sophia, I think Honorable Mother needs to come through to the people of Kenya on being consistent. Honorable Mother is on record saying that Raila Odinga and President Uhuru Kenyatta should retire together. Not a long time ago. She seems to have changed her mind that they shouldn't retire together. In fact, that President Uhuru Kenyatta should continue governing through proxy, and Raila Odinga should purport to govern as a proxy of Uhuru Kenyatta. At what time did she change her mind? Because it's on record, she went public to say that the two of them should retire together. Now, she is the running mate of Raila Odinga. She's a project of Uhuru Kenyatta. The two people she said they should retire together, she seems to have changed her mind. And it is my considered opinion, and I believe for many Kenyans, that being consistent is very important in leadership, especially the position she aspires. You need to be consistent. When you say this today, you must be able to live to it tomorrow.
All right, I want to allow Martha to respond, but first I want to come back to you to give you another minute. A moment ago you said that Gideon Moi was supposed to be appointed. I want you to clear that up because, with all fairness, Gideon Moi is not on this debate.
Well, President Uhuru Kenyatta, the chairman of Azimio, in a meeting in State House a week ago, said that he nominated Martha Karua as his running mate to take care of his interests and that of his family. The president was on record, which means that Martha Karua is a project of the chairman of Azimio, President Uhuru Kenyatta, with Raila Odinga. It is not me who said, it's President Uhuru Kenyatta who said. And previously I thought that Honorable Martha had been nominated as running mate by Raila Odinga. But here comes President Uhuru Kenyatta, outgoing president, chairman of Azimio, a man who has said he's going nowhere, he's going to be around. He will be ruling from home. He'll be consorting his project from home. He'll be continuing to govern the people of Kenya. I simply do not understand. Is Martha Karua, the honorable member, is she the deputy, is she the running mate of Raila Odinga, the project, or is she the running mate of Uhuru Kenyatta, the project master?
Okay.
She's who's running mate?
Okay, Martha Karua is in the building.
It is true that both I and my captains are projects, but projects of the people of Kenya, whom my captain consulted, and by public demand, he was called upon to take leadership. At a time our country desperately needs leadership. He has offered leadership, and I was competitively selected. And like my friend who was handpicked, I faced an interviewing panel, and also through demands of Kenyans and many endorsements, I was selected. Kenyans know I'm competent, and I believe I'm competent for this job. I'm ready, able, and willing. I have consistently shown independence of mind, irrespective of whom I'm dealing with. I will handle this job independently and with commitment to Kenyans. And I know my principal also, who has been a teacher of politics to Mr. Gashagua's principal.
All right, Martha Karua, just a direct question to respond to Honorable Gachagua. What is the role of President Uhuru Kenyatta in Azimio?
The role of President Kenyatta, he is the chairman of the council, but my captain is the chairman, overall chairman of Azimio. Jubilee is just one out of the 26 political parties. I sit in the council as well, and President Kenyatta does not make decisions alone.
Will he have a role? Will he have a role after he finishes his term?
Sorry?
Will President Kenyatta have a role after he finishes his term?
His party will have a role. And if he continues to be, if he doesn't give his position in the council to any other member of his party, it would be a peripheral role as a member of the party. The incoming administration will be a Raila Odinga Azimio presidency. Just like the current Jubilee government, although Uhuru was a deputy president in the government of Mwai Kibaki, it was not a continuation of the Mwai Kibaki administration. It was an Uhuru Jubilee administration. Anybody who understands government would know that.
Honorable Gachagua, you have a minute to respond.
The truth of the matter is that the role of President Uhuru Kenyatta in Azimio is to craft his own succession, to continue governing Kenya through proxy, through Raila Odinga and Martha Karua. President Uhuru Kenyatta has already started assigning roles to Honorable Martha Karua, which means he is a leader, and in the unfortunate and unlikely event that they are elected to office, President Uhuru Kenyatta will continue governing this country outside his constitutional mandate, because there is a two-term limit that the president should retire. But the president does not intend to retire. You saw how angry he was, saying that people are asking him to go home and asking where he's going. It looks like he doesn't remember that when he sought to be president for 10 years, he knew what 10 years is all about. He cannot complain that people are asking him to go. Nobody is asking him to go. It's the Constitution. But he's trying to circumvent the Constitution to plant a proxy government to continue governing from outside State House through Raila Odinga and Martha Karua, so that he can continue protecting state capture and conflict of interest. And Martha Karua has already been assigned that role. He was on record that she is the one he has put there deliberately to protect his interests and that of his family.
All right, Martha Karua.
It is important to be truthful in this debate. President Kenyatta has not publicly or privately assigned me any role. I'm sure he knows that he cannot assign any role to a minister in an administration he does not have. The person who has assigned me a role as deputy and has declared the intention to appoint me as Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs, apart from being Deputy President, is the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. My colleagues and his captains' beef with the President should not make them use this forum or use us as candidates to fight the President. We represent the aspirations of Kenyans, and yes, Kenya needs rescue, but rescue from corruption cartels, which my colleague may know more about.
On the 6th of June, Honorable Gachagua, during a Meet the People tour in your constituency, that's Madeira constituency, the people you represent there, you said that because you perceive the matter you're currently in court over to be a political witch hunt, if elected, you'd see to it that your accounts are unfrozen, build a mansion, and perhaps go ahead and throw a party in essence. Mr. Gachagua, isn't this tantamount to subversion of the cause of justice, an admission that you made in this sentiment?
To start with, I'd like to tell Honorable Mother we are not here to fight President Uhuru Kenyatta. We are holding him to account on his utterances. He has said he's going nowhere. He's on record. That's not fighting him. He has said he assigned Martha Karua the role to jail people. I don't know how she'll do it. She's not a judge. She's not a court of law. That is the work of courts of law, to jail people. It's President Uhuru Kenyatta who has said so. He has said that she has put her there to take care of interests. It's his own record. I don't want to respond to dignify ridiculous accusations by social media. Social media people assigned by the state have been following me wherever I go in the Republic, including my homes, to listen to what I say and twist it. I told the people of Madeira, they asked me a question. Mr. Gachagua, you bought a farm here and you have started building a house. What happened? Now that you are going to be deputy president, are you still going to live here? I told them I stopped building the house because the state froze my accounts to intimidate me and to blackmail me to support the handshake. And that money is frozen. And I cannot use it. That is why the construction of a house stopped in this area. When the due process takes place and the courts will deliver justice to Rigathi Gachagua one day, and my accounts are frozen, I assured the people of that area that I'll come and complete that house and live with them. And I'll take time to allow them to come and visit me. They asked me a secondary question. As deputy president, will you allow us to come and sit with you? I said, yes, I'm a junior elder in this community. I'll have time to sit with my fellow men over food, over a drink, and we share in the African way. I say the women in this area will come and sit with Mama Gachagua and have kesha, because my wife is a pastor and she likes doing kesha. And the women wanted to know, will they be allowed to come to the home of the Deputy President to have Kesha with Mrs. Gachagua. I confirmed, yes, I'll be Deputy President, but I'm still the same old guy who hangs around here. A very generous person who spends all his time with the people.
All right, Mr. Gachagua, you have a national audience. What is the source of the money that was frozen? Because that is the context.
Pardon?
What is the source of this money that was frozen?
I have said many times that I'm a victim of blackmail by President Uhuru Kenyatta, whom I served as personal assistant. President Uhuru Kenyatta wanted me to abandon William Ruto and join him in fighting him, and I said no, because he didn't give me a good reason. And he blackmailed me. He sent Nancy Gitawe, his advisor, to threaten me that if I don't abandon William Ruto and join him, I'll face the music from the state. And one problem started after another. They froze my accounts, KRI froze all my companies, then they arrested me on trumped-up charges for 1.5 years, no evidence in court, nothing. I'm a victim of blackmail and persecution by Uhuru Kenyatta using the state criminal justice system to manage politics and deal with those who don't agree with him.
Honorable Gachagua, with all due respect, you've not answered my question. What is the source of the money that was...
The money that I have is well documented. I am an astute businessman. This is money that I made during the reign of Mwai Kibaki when the economy was thriving. I made over 200 million and invested in an account. And that account has been running for the last 8 years, and nobody has ever asked me a question. In 2013, when I supported Uhuru Kenyatta, I still had the money. In 2017, when I supported him, I still had the money in my personal account. This is money I have accounted for. It's clean money. I am a good businessman. And in the fullness of time, I'll be vindicated.
All right, Martha Karua.
I was really hoping that my colleague would explain to us how an individual finds 5 billion shillings in their accounts. But I hope one day Kenyans will be able to know money that was transferred to his accounts in the last 10 years of the Jubilee administration. But that's for him to account. I believe as leaders, we have to be accountable. That is why there is declaration of wealth, so that as you enter office, people can know how much you are worth, and as you exit, or in the middle, they can monitor and see how you are progressing, whether it is from your salary, and if it's from business, it has to be a business that can be ascertained. I think we really need to come clean, because if you cannot account for your wealth, you cannot be a good steward of the money of the people of Kenya.
So this is a question to both of you. You've brought up the subject of wealth declaration.
Yeah.
What are you worth, Honorable Karua?
I think about just about 150 million, and that is because the 56 million I had declared in 2013 has appreciated because of the inflation. I haven't had any new properties, but I'm a person many may not understand. I'm not thirsty for land. I'm not thirsty for worldly goods. I'm happy to have a house I call home. I'm happy to have a house in my father's land. I do not look for property. Not everybody is hungry to amass. I'm hungry to do something to help my country to transform the lives of the people.
Right.
So if you're looking for Martha Karua to be a billionaire, no, I am not hungry for billions.
Honorable Gachagua,
my
how much
account
are you
did
worth?
not receive 5 billion. That is propaganda. I have 200 million. That is the money that is held. 200 million, 64 million, I worked in the Ministry of Lands and Settlement. 10 million, I worked in Kenya Power. 33 million, I worked in the Ministry of Livestock. Another 46 million, I worked in another organization called Patek. Up to 200 million, that is all the money. But when you set policemen to investigate, they don't understand accounts. When you save money in a fixed deposit, it leaves your personal account into a suspense account. A normal policeman looking at it, movement in and out 4 times a year of 200 million, he thinks you have 800 million within that year. So when he multiplies by 7 years, he says you have 12.4 billion. That is the folly of the kind of investigations we are having in this country. I don't have billions. I have 203 million into that account. And that is part of my wealth. I'm worth 800 million minus the 200 they are holding, another 600.
So just a quick follow-up on that, Honorable Rigathi, because the charges you are facing are as a result of trading with county governments. What's your position on public officers doing business with government, whether at the national level or at the county level?
By the time I've done all my businesses, I was not a public servant. I was a private individual. I have no conflict of interest. I was a businessman. I applied for tenders and competed, open tenders and won, and did construction business and did supplies, and nobody is complaining. Today, those charges against me, no evidence in court, nobody is willing to record a statement. Clean business. And I never traded with institutions because I was not part of any government.
But this is when your
business
brother...
I did in 2011, I did in 2012. You know, when they say that my brother was governor, my brother became governor in 2013. I did business in 2008, in 2009, in 2011. And that money is there, and it's all documented where it has come from. But nobody is bothered, because they just wanted to punish me. But they wanted to blackmail me into supporting the handshake. And I'm a man of principle, and Uhuru Kenyatta knows that. I respect my conscience. I will never be intimidated. And I can tell you, many governors today supporting Azimio is because they were blackmailed like me, and they gave in.
Honorable Gachagua, just clarity. In 2009, 2010, there was no county governments. Which governments did you do?
Sorry?
There was no county governments in 2009.
I'm saying I made money in 2010, in 2009. There was no county government. I didn't make money with the county government. I never did business with the county government. I said I worked with the Ministry of Lands. I worked with the Ministry of Livestock Development. So you cannot say that there was conflict in Nyeri, because I did this business long before county governments came into place.
But Honorable Gachagua, the matter in court is about doing business with county governments.
I'm saying the matter in court is a matter that is on fabricated charges. And that matter will be coming in the fullness of time. What I'm talking about is the money that is held and where it came from. As to the allegations, as a matter before court, there is nothing. It's absolute lies. There is nothing. And in the fullness of time, and that is why, even after sending 200 policemen to arrest me in Nyeri and drag me naked in front of my wife, in front of my workers, drive me to Nairobi, lock me for 4 days, 1.5 years later, not a shred of evidence, nothing. That is why the case has not taken off. They have slated it for September later this year. But still, nothing has been presented to us. Our lawyers have been asking, give us evidence against Rigathi Gachagua. It's not forthcoming. It does not exist. It's a fabrication. It's blackmail. It was a way of trying to force me to abandon William Ruto. Okay. But I was not intimidated. I remain on board.
Okay, Honorable Karo, you have 2 minutes.
An Azimio government will have a policy position that graft cases and all serious crime should be investigated and prosecuted within a given time, within 6 months to be specific, so that people like my colleague here, Mr. Gachagua, anybody charged with crime against the people, within 6 months, we ought to know whether they are guilty or not, so that people don't seek public office when having baggage of cases. And if I may remind Mr. Gachagua, the cases, because I've been following the newspaper reports, relate to Kwale County, Bungoma County, and Nyeri County. And the period when the offenses are said to have been committed is between 2013 and 2020. So it is important, even from a personal position, that a person gets cleared and that you do not instruct advocates to delay the cases, because what we are having in our courts is really a circus, where one is charged, you are holding public office, you continue holding public office, elections come, and now we have seen new language in the courts that to allow them to campaign, the case is further delayed. Kenyans need to know, and even the person accused needs to know, so that they do not give excuses. We have repeatedly said with my captain that whether it's my daughter, my blood relative, or a member of the opposing camp, the law must apply equally to all. And everybody must have a swift chance to clear their name in court or for the court to declare them guilty. We are here to help Kenya organize itself in that manner by engaging with the players in the justice system and having a policy position.
All right, Honorable Gachagua, you have a minute to respond. For clarity, have you done business with county governments?
Allegations remain just allegations. Honorable Mother knows, and I'll never take her on allegations. A British newspaper accused her of receiving a bribe from BET, but I cannot come here and accuse her that she's corrupt because of that allegation. Because an allegation is an allegation. The people of Kirinyaga have been complaining that she used her office as justice minister to take land in South Gariama and give it to her relatives. But that is just an allegation. The issue here, Sophia, the issue here,
we would like
the issue here, Sophia, is that we need to allow.
Would like to remind the members of our audience to please do not cheer or jeer and allow our candidates to present their issues. Please go ahead.
The issue here is that we need to allow independent institutions to fight corruption. President Uhuru Kenyatta has cried inability to fight corruption because he was lenient. He was lenient because the people involved in mega corruption are close to him, both in family and friends. That is why he was lenient. But had he allowed independent institutions to fight corruption, the issue of leniency would not arise. Had he allowed independent institutions to fight corruption without getting involved, Rigathi Gachagua would not be in court, because independent institutions will never take people to court without evidence. What the Honorable Karua is saying, that we need a law to hasten cases, is not the solution.
Honorable
The
Gachagua,
solution is to take cases to court when you have evidence.
Matakara, you have a minute to rebut.
I just want to let Mr. Gachagua know that I do not have an iota of public land anywhere, in Kirinyaga or anywhere. I do not own land in South Gariama. I am glad he knows they are just allegations. And I challenged the current administration that is there, and I'm not in power in Kirinyaga, that if there is truth to that allegation, then they must swiftly take me to court and recover. So once you challenge those making the allegation and they don't do anything about it, then the matter is closed. The only land I own in Kenya is the house I live in Nairobi, and the house up country, which is on my father's land, and he has included my name in the title. I said I'm not land hungry, and I'm not hungry for material wealth. Those who are hungry may never understand that. Relating to BAT, it was money paid to my campaign secretariat by a donor, not paid to my personal account. Later, it transpired that it was money from a company. The matter has been investigated in UK, and the file has been closed. I also challenged the DPP of the government, Gachagua's principal serve, in 2016 to investigate and prosecute me.
Right,
so those matters are
up.
Allegations.
Thank you very much. Time is up. But now that we're talking about funds, you all are traversing the country with choppers and legions of teams. How do you finance your campaign, Honorable Gachagua? How much does it cost?
Pardon?
How much does it cost to finance your campaign?
Pardon?
How much does it cost to finance your campaign?
Oh, the sound is not working here.
Sorry.
I can't hear you properly.
I apologize for that.
Yeah.
How much does it cost to finance your campaign?
Well, it's difficult because we don't have a centralized command. Our campaign, we are raising funds from people, and mostly is in materials, is in donations in terms of choppers, in terms of vehicles, in terms of fuel, in terms of personnel. And really, what you need in terms of cash is not much. This campaign of Kenya Kwanza is bottom-up driven. A lot of hustlers have taken time to give their all in terms of time, in terms of materials, in terms of support in kind. There isn't much about cash. So it's very difficult at this stage to quantify and say, this is the amount that we are going to use for this campaign. What I know is that in the next 1 week or so, We'll now be talking about real figures because we have to mobilize agents, we have to mobilize vehicles, we have to get people to protect the vote. Those people need to be given allowances. That is when now we will come to the cost of the real campaign.
All right, Martha Karua, the same question. How do you finance your campaign?
Through public donations in cash and kind. We had a fundraiser just the other Friday, but the donations are a continuous process. The Azimio campaign secretariat is keeping tab. My personal campaign organization, the New Dawn Trust, is also keeping tab of all donations coming to me. And it is the organization that had received the money you asked earlier for BAT. I do not mix campaign money with my own funds because you have to maintain integrity even with donations. We have choppers donated. There is a chopper I personally use, which is a donation from a kind corporate friend. And we have many such donations. And I want to remind Kenyans, my captain, the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, has had choppers in his campaign even when he was out of government. Like the 2007, I think they flashed more choppers than the PNU side I was in that could have. He is a man known for his capability to mobilize resources, both human and financial, for campaign. And I'm very lucky to be his running mate.
Talk to us, Honorable Gachagua, about corruption and election campaigns financing. A lot of opaqueness there, clearly, even from this engagement, and laws around politicians being accountable and there being an eye inside what's going on have not seen day of light. So what are your thoughts? Is there any nexus there?
Well, you know, campaigns, and you really cannot control the nations because people support a certain candidate for a certain reason. And it behoves upon the candidate to receive donations that are well-meaning and donations that are not tied to your win and what you need to do for people after. And that is the basis of our campaign. I personally have many friends who are supporting me. They have not demanded anything for me in return when we form government. They think we have got a good plan. They think that we need to be given an opportunity to run this country and turn it around. They think that the real thing is the economy. They think that they need to help us to move around the country. And they are well-meaning. I wouldn't say the same of my colleague here because their campaign is being run with the public resources. You are aware that the PS Interior has been meeting chiefs and assistant chiefs who are public servants and give them instructions to work for Azimio. You have seen their meetings being attended by chiefs in uniform. That is the misuse of public resources. We have seen funds from Harambee House, from the confidential expenditure, being put into this campaign. Many of the town hall meetings they are holding in the Mount Kenya region, all the delegates are given 1,000 shillings to go home. And that is money from public coffers.
Do you have evidence of this?
Oh yes, we have photographs, we have recordings, we have audios, they are there. We are always well appraised because many of those people who go to receive that money are actually our supporters. And they say they don't want to allow the elephant to die with the tusks. They need to remove the tusks before it is dead. That is what is happening. And public servants, the Cabinet Secretary for Interior, is on record campaigning for Azimio. The Cabinet Secretary for ICT is on record campaigning for Azimio. These are public officials. They are public, they are paid with public money, but they are campaigning. That is misuse of public resources. And my colleague here, who says he's a stickler of the rule of law, has not condemned that because I would want her to condemn that because she says she's a stickler of the rule of law. And if she finds public resources are being used to prepare her to office, she should be bold enough to say that is wrong. She should speak out against the misuse of chiefs and assistant chiefs by the PS Interior to campaign for her and her boss.
Okay, Honorable Karua, just to build on that, all corruption scandals, Eurobond, Kimarer, Afia House, KEMSA, do find a dotted line into politics. As you respond to this question, how does Azimio and yourself going to deal with these questions that we have to deal with now?
May I begin there by saying that Azimio government is very clear on what it will do. Both my captain and I have repeatedly said there will be no sacred cows. Anybody involved in corruption will face the law, irrespective of who they are. As for campaigning with public resources, that's a publication. What I know is that every presidential candidate is entitled to security. So there will be security apparatus, whether it is the Deputy President's campaign or the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. We mobilize our own meetings, using our candidates, using everybody. Anybody who attends, they attend on their own volition. Yes, there are some cabinet secretaries who have attended our meetings, but they have sometimes attended as a by the way. When they attend deliberately, it's of their own volition and it's not because we need them to mobilize. Let nobody forget that there is no political operator who can mobilize more than the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. I also personally do not need help to mobilize. I've been in this game for 30 years. When Mr. Gachagua was still a DO, I was in politics.
All right. You have a response to that? 1 minute rebuttal.
Well, I have no rejoinder for that. My request is that it's about time we move to the real issues that the people of this country need to know. What is our plan? We have talked many issues, and that is a good thing. But the people of Kenya need to know, what does Rigathi Gachagua and William Ruto have for them? I'm hoping that debate will come around tonight because it's important. Because many Kenyans are glued to the screens. They are waiting to hear. They want to know about health. They want to know about education. The public service wants to know about their issues. The police service wants to know about their issues. There are many people waiting. And I think, I am guessing, they must be getting information.
Yeah.
Honorable Gachagua, we are getting to that. And corruption is a big issue in this country where public resources...
Corruption must be fought. And the real corruption is state capture and conflict of interest.
What is state capture?
State capture is where the people in power compete with citizens for scarce resources. Where the people in power use their position to advantage themselves to get business unfairly. Where people in power allocate resources to projects where they have an interest. I have an example. In the year 20, I want to tell you what is state capture and conflict of interest. This is Gazette Notice Legal number 1112, dated 26th June 2019. In the exercise of powers conferred by Section 106 of the Stamp Duty Act, the Cabinet Secretary of the National Treasury and Planning, on the recommendation of the Cabinet Secretary for Lands and Physical Planning, directs that the instruments executed in respect of the transactions relating to the merger of NIC, PLC, and Commercial Bank of Africa shall be exempt from the provisions of the Act. By a single signature, these two companies owned by the First Family were exempted from paying 350 million. These are rich banks who have made money from domestic borrowing. They have lent money to government. They are in Fuliza. The owners are the richest people in Kenya. They were exempted from paying 350 million. Money that can put up 35 level 3 hospitals in Kenya. That is conflict of interest and state capture. That is chronic corruption. It's worse than the corruption associated with public procurement. And that is what we must deal with. We must deal with state capture. We must deal with conflict of interest. There is a railway line between Nairobi and Nyanyuki that was put up at a cost of 3.8 billion. That railway line serves one company that supplies fuel to Nyanyuki.
All right, Honorable Gachagua, thank you very much for this. Unfortunately, I cannot authenticate
no,
this document.
You asked me what is state capture.
I'm giving you time, but I cannot authenticate the document that you just read right now. So I've seen in your manifesto that you would put a commission to investigate these bribes. Would you go after the First Family?
We will not go after anybody. We'll go after all those who are in state capture and conflict of interest.
Who are they?
But what are you saying?
That will come out in the commission. I'm saying there will be a commission because the real corruption that we need to deal with, not what Honorable Mother is talking about, is state capture and conflict of interest. where the people in power have used their offices to usurp public resources to their advantage and to the disadvantage of the rest of Kenyans. You are aware that the milk industry has been monopolized by state capture and conflict of interest, where the owners of that monopoly decide how much to buy from the farmers and how much to sell to the consumers.
So, Honorable.
And extort the people of Kenya.
Clarity for the Kenyans who are watching.
Yeah.
At the center of government is President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Yes.
Are you going to go after President Uhuru Kenyatta finishes his term?
I have said we are not talking about individuals. We'll deal with state capture and conflict of interest. Anybody who is involved in state capture and conflict of interest will be held to account.
The first family, sir. So grab the bull by its horns. Don't perhaps cut around the issue. You are talking about the first family. So in essence, you are saying you will go after them. Isn't that?
I am saying this is state capture. I've given you an example. You will feel for yourself what needs to happen.
All right.
And I am saying that is what we need to deal with. You know, state capture. And that is why the president will say he is lenient. He cannot deal with state capture. He cannot deal with conflict of interest.
Okay.
He can't.
Thank you very much. Namatha, we have 2 minutes.
I want to help Mr. Gachagua. State capture is the repurposing of the state to serve individuals rather than public good. And corruption cartels in this country, whoever they are, have strangled the country. I opened by saying Kenya can't breathe. Our health services, their money is taken. The money for agriculture, for fertilizer subsidies, money for building dams such as Kimwerel, Arol, Galana Kularu, which was supposed to help Kenya feed itself. That is what state capture is about, that every penny intended for the public, a majority of it is ending up in people's pockets. This is not about families or individuals. It's cartels, and cartels are organized people, gangs of criminals, because what they are doing is committing crime. And you don't need a commission to punish crime. You just need serious law enforcement. And if you find roadblocks that cases are taking too long, then Parliament can be used to do its work, to consider proposals from the government, to pass laws that fast-track such cases. We all know that election petition cases take 6 months. Why can't corruption cases similarly take such a period? That is the debate that must go to the National Assembly. Mr. Gachagua serves in the National Assembly. I have not heard him talk about corruption except when defending his own position in the case he's involved in. In contrast, I'm out of Parliament. I've been vocal, whether it's KEMSA, whether it's any other corruption. And I've also been vocal in upholding the rule of law and reminded my brother, President Kenyatta, that he cannot serve beyond his term, a position he holds at this moment, that he is going home.
So, Honorable Karua, do you agree then that there's state capture in Kenya? And secondly, what do you make of their proposal to form a commission of inquiry into the same in Kenya if elected?
That just expresses their reluctance to fight corruption. In fact, Mr. Gashagua's principle is captured on tape in an interview in this country, saying that corruption, he doesn't think corruption can stop a nation from developing. With what money will a nation develop, invest, or even provide services if the corruption cartels are taking 2 billion shillings a day, which translates to stealing 40 shillings from every person? In an average household of 6 people, that's 240 shillings, 2 packets of unga at the discounted price of 100. Kenyans need to understand. They're hungry, they're without medical service, without fees for their children, and without free education, because corruption cartels are strangling the nation. That's why we can't breathe. Once we understand that, then we will vote for people with a track record, like Azimio, people with the will to fight corruption, people who are prepared to confront the monster and to apply the law evenly, irrespective of who is mentioned.
So do you believe we have state capture in Kenya?
There is state capture, yes, by corruption cartels, organized criminal gangs who plunder our resources daily. 2 billion shillings a day, which is authenticated by the Auditor General, translates to 765 billion shillings. The amount of money we need for the social support is just 144 billion. The rest can be used to pay debt, to do other things. We intend to seal all those loopholes so that Kenyans can have advantage of their resources.
Honorable Karua, the names of every corruption scandal, Kimwarer, Kamsa, Eurobond, they're all government officials.
Yes.
How do you deal with that?
That is where the state capture is coming. If you look at them, it's not about families, it's about individuals who choose. Because I keep saying no mother has baptized their children the name corruption. It's a behavior an individual deliberately chooses. And state capture can even become a tool during elections where empty promises are given to entice Kenyans to further surrender their sovereignty to corruption cartels. I'm urging Kenyans to look at the track record of each of the formations that are seeking the presidency of this country. I am confident that a reasonable look at the candidates present, as Kenyans will commend themselves to vote for Azimio. And Azimio will do the jobs, not because we are perfect, but because we have the best track record and we do try and have tried before and done good work for Kenyans.
All right, Honorable Gachagua, you have 2 minutes.
I don't know. I don't know whether the Honorable Mother has taken time in their meetings with the chairman of Azimio to ask him. He said he is in charge of this country. He knows everything that goes on. Then he went ahead to say that 2 billion shillings is stolen daily. I don't know whether in her meetings with the chairman of Azimio, she has tried to find out from him who steals this 2 billion and why he has done nothing about it. In terms of fighting corruption, our manifesto is very clear. Our plan is sound and is in accordance with the Constitution. Our plan is to allow independent institutions that fight corruption to be really and truly independent by giving them that freedom and giving them resources and financial autonomy so that they receive instructions from nobody. On assuming government, we shall appoint the Inspector General of Police as the accounting officer of the National Police Service so that himself and the DCI have independence to do what they need to do on fighting crime and corruption without having to take instructions from anybody. Because you know, this, it is said, he who pays a piper calls the tune. Why the Inspector General of Police and the DCI cannot fight corruption and crime, why they cannot operate the way the Constitution spells out is because they are controlled from Harambee House, because that is where their money is. We shall give them financial autonomy. We shall operationalize the judiciary fund to allow our judges and magistrates to operate with financial autonomy so that they are free to do what they want to do, so that they can fast-track cases without having to look back. And of course, you know, President William Ruto, the new president of Kenya, God willing, we appoint the judges that were nominated by the Judicial Service Commission so that they can serve the people of Kenya.
All right, Honorable Karua, do you agree that lack of independence in these institutions is the problem Kenyans are facing in the criminal justice system?
The Constitution gives all these institutions independence. And independence and autonomy should not be confused with accountability. Parliament, which is independent, has to be accountable to the people of Kenya. The executive has to be accountable to the people of Kenya. The judiciary has to be accountable to the people of Kenya. Institutions have decisional independence, that a judge will be independent in making that decision of guilty or not guilty, that the director of public prosecutions will be independent in deciding to charge, to prosecute or not to prosecute. It doesn't mean that they fail to account to the people of Kenya. And that is most of our leaders are failing to do. Be accountable to the people of Kenya. You go to office to do your own business, where you will find that quite a number of people who are parliamentarians are trading with the counties, are trading with the government. So who is the watchdog of the people? The law forbids it. Conflict of interest. Going to get county work from a county government when you are a member of parliament. Who is going to be the watchdog?
A quick follow-up on that.
Yeah.
Because the proposal on the table in Azimio is that if you are elected into office, then you'd also double up as Minister for Justice. Yeah. Wouldn't that go then to entrench that kind of feeling of interference from the executive? Because these are independent institutions, yes, but even if it's facilitating and good workflow, there's the NCAJ that handles all of the issues around that chain of criminal justice. So wouldn't that role, in essence, be seen as interference as well?
Not at all. The Minister of Justice doesn't prosecute. This is a coordinating ministry, coordinating the entire justice sector. And we had such a program even during the Kibaki time known as Justice Law and Order Sector, to give policy direction. Then each institution goes and works on its own. It's not about how that institution will do its work. It's to understand together the difficulties, the roadblocks along the justice sector, so as to make proposals for legislation and for policy to Parliament. Remember that policy and legislation are passed by Parliament. Government institutions are independent, but they cannot act alone. There must be some synergy, and that synergy is in policy. Then they can have decisional independence. I've been a Minister of Justice before. I didn't investigate or prosecute.
All right, I want to move to the next topic, and let's go to the cost of living. One of the charges against politicians in this country is that they're simply out of touch and you're unable to solve the problems that we face. I'll give you an opportunity tonight, Honorable Gachagua, to start to make your presentation on cost of living by first telling us what is the cost of milk today?
The cost of milk,
retail.
The farmer sells at 42. At the supermarket, some places 120 per liter, others is 130, depending on where the supermarket is.
Kerosene?
I don't go to the supermarkets.
Okay. What is your presentation tonight on dealing with the cost of living, knowing very well that...
I want to say, I'm happy now we are where we need to be.
Audience, please maintain silence. And for the record, issues with what we've been talking about throughout, these issues impact on how we fund the projects and all of these other subsidies we'll be talking about. So there's no non-issue tonight.
What I'm saying is that I'm happy that we are discussing the high cost of living, the inability of Kenyans to buy food, because a mistake was made maliciously to deny farmers fertilizer subsidy, and as a result, there was low production, and because of the law of demand and supply, you cannot afford a packet of unga. A packet of unga is 250 shillings. Government is running around because of this election now, trying to subsidize for 4 weeks, just after the elections. But they are not telling the people of Kenya how they'll buy food after the elections. This is being done to entice them to vote for Azimio. If government had done the right thing and supplemented farmers with inputs and fertilizer, they would have increased their production. You know, we consume 46 million bags of maize, and we produce about 40 million every year. We normally have a deficit of about 6, which we import. But because of this decision, we are short of almost 15 million bags, and that is what has caused the current crisis. And we have a plan. On our first month in office, we intend to bring down the cost of fertilizer from 6,700 to 2,500. That is DAP. That is the main fertilizer for planting.
Okay.
And that will enhance our farmers to produce more so that we have food security, and probably we even have some surplus for export.
Thank you. Honorable Martha, same question. What is the price of bread today, and what is Azimio plan to reduce the cost of living?
The price of bread, the bread I buy, is 80 shillings. but there are various type of loaves, so I will not pretend to know what each loaf is costing. But I know that the price of foodstuffs, of essential commodities, has gone up, and the fuel prices are generally the trigger that gets them high, coupled with corruption. My friend, Mr. Gachagua, is talking of giving, their government giving fertilizer subsidies. He is in Jubilee and therefore part of Jubilee government. He is in parliament courtesy of Jubilee, but he doesn't know that currently the Jubilee government has a fertilizer subsidy and a bag is retailing at 2,900. The only problem is with the distribution because the cartels are making sure that they buy most of it. Only a paltry gets to the farmers. It's again sold at the higher price. For us, the first, second, and third agenda is to fight corruption. Governments have subsidies to cushion farmers because of, and to cushion the people because of a series of things. We have war in Ukraine, which has seen foodstuffs rise for countries that depend, are not self-sufficient and buy outside, Kenya being one of them, fertilizer and other things. But the money for subsidy, for helping our people with the cost of living, is going, majority of it is going to the cartels. That is where the problem is. The money meant for Galana Kulalu irrigation scheme, which could have helped with our food reserves, was stolen. Kenyans knew even the fertilizer there was a scandal. Maize there was a scandal. Kenyans knew who are responsible for those scandals. And Mr. Gachagua is also aware. And together with his captain, they may know more.
All right,
since my mother, who is actually my mother, my late mother is Mother Kerigo. Since she joined government, she has been consumed by the lies of the same government. If the Honorable Mother moved around the country, the lie she's giving here, that fertilizer is 2,500, she will feel very sorry. If she went round to Kemunye, her hometown in Gishogo, the cost of DAP is 6,700. The cost of CAN is 5,900. The cost of 17 is 5,800. The cost of 20 is 5,900. And the cost of urea is 7,200. That was just a lie by the Minister for Agriculture. There is no fertilizer that is available for 2,500. You can walk around to any shopping center, including our hometown. These are the costs of fertilizer. And I want to say, let us stop deceit and lying to the people of Kenya on national television. When my sister here, Mother, tells the people, farmers, that fertilizer is 2,500, they start having very serious doubts about her credibility as a future deputy president. Because if she can come here on national television and give prices that are not true, when people are suffering, when people cannot buy fertilizer, her credibility is put into question.
A quick
I've
1 minute
indicated
rebuttal.
that the subsidized fertilizer, he's correct, is not available at every retail shop, but it's available at the stores of the national, at the depots of National Cereals and Produce Board. It is a project of the Ministry of Agriculture. I've heard the minister talking about it, and I know of farmers who have accessed it, but I know, and I have stated, it's riddled with corruption, and it's not getting to the people. The honorable thing Mr. Gachagua could do, when you are not aware, you just say you are not aware. You just don't dismiss things as lies when they are happening. The problem with Kenya, money meant to cushion farmers, to cushion consumers, is going to corruption cartels. That is a big problem, and which, as the Mayo government, will rescue Kenyans from.
All right, I'm going to give you all 1 minute each to talk to first-handed days on how you'll deal with the cost of living.
I'm aware 100% there's no fertilizer anywhere for 2,500. I'm a bottom-up man. I move around this country. It's simply not available. In the first 100 days, we want to do several things. One, bring the cost of food down, bring down the cost of living, bring fertilizer subsidies from 6,700 to 2,500.
How will you do that, sir?
We'll provide funds for that. These funds that are being proposed now for bringing the packet of unga down for 2 kg is what is supposed to go to fertilizer so that we have a long-term solution. The other one is not sustainable. It's a short-term thing for the elections. We have a plan to focus on primary health care, where community health volunteers are given an allowance to boost their morale and increase their efficiency to deal with preventive medicine as opposed to curative medicine. We have a plan to employ 116,000 teachers within the first 2 years so that we can deal with the shortage of teachers. For that? I will explain to you. I have explained to you that we are stopping wastage in public spending. We have had a lot of projects that are not planned.
Okay.
We have legacy projects that are of sentimental values to leaders, but have no meaning to the people of Kenya.
Thank you, Honorable Gachagua. Yeah. So, your minute.
I want to first say that we in Kenya do not have a revenue problem. This year alone, we collected over 2 trillion shillings, the taxman that is. We have a problem of expenditure, non-priority expenditure. That is what we are going to curb. In relation to fertilizer, the subsidies are already in place. It's a question of ensuring they work for the people. It's ensuring that the subsidy for unga continues to the time there will be harvest. The expenditure for operation and maintenance, O&M, is over 600 billion, while salaries are at about 550. You can see operation and maintenance overshooting salaries. We will prioritize what needs to be prioritized to help Kenyans move forward. And for all the things we have said we'll do in 100 days, I have acquainted myself with the budget. The budget lines are sufficient with optimal use. Mr. Gachagua serves in the parliament that passed the budget. He doesn't seem aware that the money is in the budget, including for Baba Care.
All right, as we bring this to a close, fuel, the subsidy there expires next month, the same as the one we've seen on unga. We'll give you a minute each because Kenya Kwanza, you are proposing to set up a legal framework to ring-fence the fuel stabilization fund. IMF, World Bank says stabilization funds are inefficient and regressive. Azimio, on the other hand, you're talking about reviewing the taxes and levies on petroleum products. So different positions here. So 100 days you come into office and there's all of this mess going on and the cost of living continues to be up. In 1 minute, what is unique about this legal framework that you will do with the stabilization fund that hasn't happened so far?
We have money available in the budget. We have money that has been put for projects that are not a priority, and that is the money that you need to inject quickly before you can even look at the legal frameworks on assuming government. And that is possible because you look at the Ministry of Agriculture, we have some 50 billion there. That 50 billion will be available to deal with the issues of fertilizer. It will be available to deal with the issue of animal feeds that are beyond the reach of many farmers, so that we can have a quick win.
Fuel Stabilization Fund, in your manifesto, how will you fund it? The kitty is currently depleted, so you're not coming to find money. How will you fund it?
We have said that we are going to expand our tax base. Once we put the Hustlers Fund of 50 billion and we give to the people down there at the down of the pyramid, we enlarge the people who are paying tax and will have more revenue. And this is the money that will be available to the people of Kenya. Number two, we are talking about the issue of domestic borrowing. We are paying 600 million every year as interest from domestic borrowing. Once we stop that domestic borrowing, this money that is going for interest every month will be available for this one.
I'm glad he adopts my position that there is money in the budget, but that's as far as we go together. We part on how to do it. We will ensure that there is fiscal discipline so that non-priority spending is dropped and we go to priority spending. And I've given example of operation and maintenance, which is at 600 billion, while salaries are less than that. That is totally unacceptable. We will also fight corruption because money for fuel subsidies, there are a lot of cartels in the energy sector. We understand this. We will target those places and press the areas we need to press to immediately stop the leakage. Within 100 days, we will be able to do this and much more. We have actually been looking on what we need to do on day one, because Kenyans are not going to be patient. They are already suffering. They cannot wait for commissions to be formed. They need actions.
Right.
Azimio is ready to go.
Ladies, gentlemen, our 90 minutes debate is up. It's time for our closing statements. And we begin with you, Honorable Rigathi. You have your 2 minutes starting now.
Thank you very much. I want to ask the people of Kenya to give us a chance to sort them out and put money in their pocket. We want to ask the people of Kenya to give us a chance to empower the small business people by giving them affordable credit to be able to expand their businesses. I want to ask all those people with pending bills to know that in the first 90 days, we shall float a bond for 500 billion to pay all the pending bills so that their homes are not auctioned. And by action, that 500 billion, by injecting into the economy, it will spice up the economy. I want to tell the people of Kenya, by giving us a chance, we shall look at the terms of service for the public service and the police who are suffering and who need to work when they are comfortable. I want to tell the people of Kenya to give us a chance to bring reforms to the NHIF program so that every Kenyan has an NHIF card so that when you go to hospital, you are able to be treated and go home free. I want to ask the people to know, the people of Kenya, that William Ruto and I have a plan for them. I want them to give us an opportunity to work around this economy, to spearhead the third liberation, that is to bring economic changes so that we can create wealth. We can make the people of Kenya wealthy. We can give every Kenyan an opportunity to make a living. We can give every Kenyan an opportunity to make and live a good life. We want to ask them that on the 9th of August to come and vote for change. A change to bring about economic development, a change to restore their dignity and to improve their quality of life. Thank you very much and good evening.
Thank you. Honorable Karua, your 2 minutes start
I
now.
want to remind Kenyans, this election is about trust. It's about looking to see which of the teams you can trust. We offer our track record, because even when you employ a driver, you ask them for the driving license and you want to know about their record in driving. We are asking you to critically examine the teams, and if you do so dispassionately, you will come to a conclusion. I know that Azimio is the team. We will not form commissions to fight corruption. We'll go directly for the jugular of corruption cartels, apply the law across the board, and while we agree that there is need to review salaries in view of the cost of living, it's very easy to promise heaven. Without fighting corruption, without physical discipline, non-priority spending being cut out, that is not possible. But inawezekana. With an Azimio government, we are going to do this, and together with Kenyans participating and helping us to fight corruption, we will be able to deliver our agenda to you, the 100 days agenda, and each item to reboot the economy so that Kenyans can have a decent life. While we wait to reboot the economy, for you who is unable to put food on the table, rescue is on the way. Within 3 weeks, you put an Azimio government in place, we are going to be able to send to the 2 million families that do not have any means of survival a 6,000 shilling package, which also will act as a stimulus to the economy because it gives purchasing power to 2 million families, which is like 8 million people within the country. Rescue is on the way.
All right.
We shall finally have our country back. Vote Azimio.
All right, thank you very much, Honorable Martha Karua, Honorable Rigathi Gachagua. We've come to the end of our Deputy Presidential Debate 2022. I invite you to shake hands. Thank you very much. You've all done very well. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen in the audience and our viewers following this at home, we have come to the end of our debate this evening, and our appreciation to Honorable Martha Karua of the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Party Coalition, as well as Rigathi Gachagua of the United Democratic Alliance, UDA, for honoring voters with the duty of agreeing to attend this public televised debate. We thank you.
And we thank you for watching. The final of our joint national debates will come to you on Tuesday next week, when Wahiga Maure, Raila Odinga, William Ruto, and George Wajackoyah take this very stage in the presidential candidates debate. My name is James Maro of NTV.
And I'm Sophia Wanuna of KTN News. Good night.
What is that?
And thank you all for tuning in to the Deputy Presidential Debates just moments after the second debate has ended. Prof, direct to you. Are you impressed? Were your issues addressed?
Good to see you, good to see you, good to see you.
Yeah, thank you, Trevor. I think
you guys did excellent. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yeah, it was wonderful.
The debate actually did not address the sort of central issues we're looking at.
Yeah.
But on the very positive side, I think the debate spent time on what's ailing this country. And I'm very, very happy that for the first time in history, we have two parties from inside government, so that we are able to know what's actually ailing Kenya. The theft, the corruption, the inflated government project costs, the state capture, lack of ethics among